Morning to you in your SFM Sports headlines. It's soccer action and it was a draw for Mamelodi Sundowns and AS Manyema sharing the spoils in their CAF Champions League clash. And in cricket, the Proteas women all-rounder Elise Marie Marks confident that the women can bounce back in the second T20 against England tonight. All the details around 6:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
Wednesday, the 27th of November, 2024. Good morning, South Africa. This is the Morning Brief on SAFM. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane, and I'm here to deliver it to you. Over the next 3 hours, we'll seek to not only tell you what is happening, but also we'll try to tell you what it means to you and how it's shaping your world. We'll talk to newsmakers. We'll bring those interviews to you, as well as give you expert analysis, and of course, pepper it all with a good dose of the perspectives of the broader SAFM community, that is. So much can change in 24 hours, right? It's not for nothing that, we have this quote by Vladimir Lenin, which says there are decades when nothing happens, and then there are weeks when decades happen. And you tend to, as a storyteller, when I was a reporter, I used it a few times, but you try and, don't use it too much. You only use it when it really is appropriate and it captures the sense of history that is unfolding before your own eyes. You've also heard the words of the former UK Prime Minister, the late Harold Wilson, being quoted often that say that a week is a long time in politics. What am I talking about? So much has happened since you and I last spoke yesterday morning. In one way or another that attest to these two truisms. Let's start with the developments in the Middle East, and this is one of the great conflicts of our time that is playing itself out. The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and the outgoing President of the United States, Joe Biden, announcing an Israeli Hezbollah ceasefire. So that announcement came through yesterday. In fact, into the evening, I was watching those developments and just watching it unfold. Initially just being hinted that we're very close to a ceasefire. This is, of course, as I say, one of the big conflicts of our time, hugely consequential. So news of a ceasefire equally consequential. This is a conflict that looked like, it was just escalating and intensifying as late as the dying hours of yesterday. Late yesterday, even as talk of a ceasefire was brewing, the conflict itself, in terms of how it was playing out, it seemed to be intensifying. You will have seen over the last few days, Israel striking targets to the south of Beirut, which is considered a Hezbollah stronghold, but actually going in even further and striking parts in central Beirut, where civilians are in that area, and we're told that there's no stronghold of Hezbollah in that particular area of Beirut. So over the next 60 days, Israel is due to pull its army out of Lebanon, and Hezbollah must withdraw to the north of the Litani River. We are told, however, that the ceasefire with Hezbollah will have no impact on the cataclysmic war that is playing itself out in Gaza. In fact, Netanyahu has said that the military isolation of Hamas is one of the objectives of why he's going into this ceasefire. So we'll focus on that story in our international update shortly. It is hugely consequential. We'll have a conversation about that. And then in terms of our own workings of our own democracy, there was just a display yesterday, I would say, in the courts, but also in Parliament. Let's start in the courts. Did you see the clash of the titans? There was the arguments in the Constitutional Court yesterday. These guys, they left it all in the field out there. The legal representatives of the two sides, that is, the EFF and the ATM on the one side, and parties such as the National Assembly, its Speaker, the President of the Republic, the ANC and others on the other hand. At the heart of the issue, of course, is the question of whether the National Assembly failed to hold the President accountable when it voted not to adopt a report that had been developed by an independent panel that was, at a prima facie stage, looking at whether or not the president has a case to answer, an impeachment case to answer. But you saw those arguments there, and I'd like to hear from you what you made of the arguments that were being presented. But also importantly, while that was playing itself out in the arena inside court, the gloves well and truly came off in the political arena outside court, right? Did you see and hear the EFF leader, Julius Malema, and his rhetoric against former President Jacob Zuma and his MK party? He is threatening to attach the former president's Nkandla homestead in lieu of unpaid legal costs from all the cases that the EFF has undertaken against former President Jacob Zuma and won, and those costs have not been paid. Malema, in fact, going as far as to declare that the MK party is the EFF's enemy number one. The MK party is the EFF's enemy number one. I'd like to hear your views on that issue. Give me a call. The number to dial 086 000 2032. I'll also take your WhatsApp voice notes on 061 410 4107. And lastly, let me quickly touch on the Auditor General, reflecting on the good, the bad, and the ugly of public finances. The good, she's sort of impressed, is Tsakani Maluleke, that, the situation is overall improving in terms of the ability of national and provincial governments, departments to account for their finances and sort of be transparent. The number of clean audits stands at 142. The bad, she's concerned about the so-called high-impact auditees. These are the departments and entities that directly relate to service delivery, infrastructure development, IT situation in government, and the likes, funding of higher education. Those have her concerned about their ability to account for their for their spending. The ugly, wasteful and fruitless expenditure came up to about 10 billion rand over the last 5 years, and so that situation has got to be attended to. I'd like to hear what your views are on that development. So we'll cover the full spectrum of these and other issues over the next 3 hours. Do engage with us. The number to dial 086 000 2032. Also, send me WhatsApp voice notes 061 410 4107. This is SAFM. We are leading the conversations that move us. The Wednesday edition of The Morning Brief starts now.
The Daily News Diary on SAFM.
And good morning. The weather is a bit gloomy. It's what we say in Siswati. I think I've told you this. Liba fati badvube inyama. So it resembles women who are boycotting meat.
Good morning. I actually still don't understand what it really means.
I really don't know. I just love the expression.
Okay.
Outside. It's gloomy. What's on your diary?
I think it can have a whole lot of meanings, to it.
Yeah. Actually, someone should call it and just let us know. Some Siswati expert who's out there that would know what this means. Anyway, Anne, how's your diary looking?
Well, good morning. Well, some reaction with regard from the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres, just welcoming the announcement of a ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon, and he has expressed hope that the deal will end the violence, destruction, and suffering of the people of both countries. And with the Phala Phala matter back in the spotlight, the African Transformation Movement leader Vuyo Zungula saying that Parliament, guided by Section 42 and Section 55 of the Constitution, has a mandate to hold the executive accountable, and he's accusing Parliament of violating Section 42 of the Constitution by not scrutinizing the actions of President Cyril Ramaphosa in the Phala Phala matter. And the Constitutional Court has reserved judgment in the matter brought by the EFF and ATM. So analysis on what transpired yesterday. In Soweto yesterday, the Gauteng Health MEC health officials as well as City of Johannesburg officials and police conducted inspections at spaza shops as well as checking for compliance reaction from residents of Diepkloof. And looking at the road safety plan for the festive season, the Department of Transport saying it's worried about the increasing number of motorists who still use cell phones while driving, as it contributes to road crashes, and the Deputy Transport Minister also expressing his concern about what he calls a growing trend. In court today, music legend Chico Twala's son Longwe is expected to appear in the Randburg Magistrates Court. He was arrested yesterday after he failed to appear in court last month following his release from custody. And his lawyers argued that Longwe was not a flight risk. We know that a warrant for his arrest was issued, and Longwe allegedly broke into his father's property and stole items worth 200,000 rand. So some of the stories that we are looking at this morning.
All right, thank you for that. That's Ann Musa. You'll be hearing her giving you an update on the news every half hour here on The Morning Brief.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
All right, I'll take you to the weather in just a moment. You know the expression I was sharing with Ann for the umpteenth time? The weather resembles, this is me directly translating, the weather resembles women who are boycotting meat, and I said maybe someone knows what it means. Kalanga joins me on the line. Kalanga, good morning to you. You want to tell me what it means?
Thulasizwe and the listeners, good morning. Yes, basically it means that in the ancient times when there were functions and ceremonies in the rural areas, women will go to help clean, chop onions, to help to cook. Then when the weather is bad, women will not go there because it's cold. You know, some of them, they are given birth using cesarean section. So when it's cold, they are reluctant to go out. So they do not go there to chop and prepare the meat.
I see.
So they are boycotting the meat because of the weather condition.
Thank you for that. Always a deep meaning to these expressions. They don't just come out, you know, they're not just plucked out of thin air. When you ask, you get the answers such as what Kalanga has given us this morning. All right, let me go to your weather then and tell you what the weather looks like. As I told you, in Johannesburg at least. But I have three warnings for you. One is a yellow level 4 warning for severe thunderstorms with possible heavy downpours, strong damaging winds, excessive lightning and hail, which are expected over the northeastern parts of KwaZulu-Natal. The second is a yellow level 2 warning for severe thunderstorms with damaging winds, excessive lightning, hail and heavy downpours, expected over most parts of KwaZulu-Natal except the northeastern parts. And then thirdly, a yellow level 1 warning for damaging waves resulting in localized disruption to coastal roads, harbors and ports, with small vessels at risk of taking on water and capsizing within locality. And that is expected along the coast between Cape Columbine and East London. The rest of your weather looks like this. Pretoria, partly cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers with a minimum of 19 and a maximum of 32. Johannesburg is partly cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers, 16 to 29. Mbombela fine becoming partly cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers from the afternoon, 19 to 34. Polokwane partly cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers from the afternoon, 18 to 32. Mahikeng fine becoming partly cloudy in the afternoon with isolated showers and thunder showers, 19 to 32. Bloemfontein will be partly cloudy, 15 to 25. Kimberley is fine, 14 to 28. Cape Town cloudy with scattered morning showers, 14 to 21. George cloudy with scattered rain and showers, 13 to 20. Gqeberha, cloudy with isolated showers and rain, 16 to 23. East London, cloudy with isolated showers and rain, 16 to 24. Durban will be cloudy with widespread showers and thunder showers, 19 to 25. Richards Bay, cloudy with widespread showers and thunder showers, 19 to 29. And finally, Pietermaritzburg will see morning fog patches, otherwise cloudy with widespread showers and thunder showers, 12 to 21.
South Africa, it's time to fly. FlySafair is giving away a whopping 1 million rand in flight vouchers to help your adventures come alive in 2025. Just think, you could be one of 10 lucky winners to fly away with 100,000 Rand each in flight vouchers. Oh, the places you could go, the faces you could see. Simply enter at flysafair.co.za today. And who knows, this could be your 1 in a million opportunity. Flysafair, for the love of flying. T's and C's apply.
Specsavers now looks after your hearing as well as your vision with Specsavers Audiology. With 60 stores and counting, we are South Africa's largest audiology group. For a limited time only, buy one rechargeable hearing aid and get 50% off the second. You heard right. Buy one rechargeable hearing aid and get 50% off the second. Find your nearest store at specsavers.co.za. Specsavers Audiology. Test your hearing and join the conversation. T's and C's apply.
After a 1-all draw in 2019, the Reggae Girls and Banyana Banyana are back on the battleground to test each other's strengths. Dr. Ellis and her girls target victory as they gear up for the WACON 2025. But the Jamaicans want to dance to reggae music with joy when the ref blows the final whistle. This is the International Friendly. Catch the queens of the beautiful game, African champions South Africa versus Jamaica, this Friday 29 November at 1:30 a.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and SABC 1. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Worldview Update, bringing you closer to international or global news.
So I was saying in my introductory comment at the start of the show that a ceasefire has come into effect between Israel and Hezbollah in the last few hours. This after it was announced by the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Joining me now is Roland Henwood, who is a political scientist and commentator at the University of Pretoria. Good morning to you, Roland, and thank you for your time as always. I was saying earlier on that it came, when they say that it's against the run of play, to use a sport metaphor. What we were seeing was an intensification of strikes in Israel, particularly in Beirut, ground forces in Lebanon, and Hezbollah was firing drones into Israel as well. And then out of the blue, well, in a way, out of the blue, you see this ceasefire. What has made a ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah possible at this stage?
I think good morning. I think the main driver is the fact that we see increasing instability in the region, and then of course the cost of war and massive pressure on Israel, especially because of the way in which the war was conducted, what they call the self-defense, targeting civilian areas, and the extremely high cost in lives, and of course in terms of damages on the civilian populations and infrastructure.
So in terms of how the ceasefire itself will play itself out, it's about 60 days that Israel will pull out its army and Hezbollah will withdraw to the north of the Litani River. This has a feeling of, something we've heard before, isn't it? Doesn't it go back to what the deal was, in any case, that was brokered at the end of the last Hezbollah-Israel war?
Yes, there was a resolution in the UN, Resolution 1701, in 2006, and essentially it had the same provisions, that the two armies withdraw from southern Lebanon, that there's a gap north of the Litani River is furthest that Hezbollah must come, or closest to Israel, and the Israelis, of course, withdraw from Lebanese territory. And the challenge then was that the Lebanese army was responsible to enforce this or patrol this. They did not have the capacity, but also they did not have the political will, because it meant that they would actually have to enforce this against pretty much their own people, or a substantial part of their own people, and that never happened. There were also accusations that Israel did not stick to the agreement, flying over Lebanese territory, etc. This time around, what is different is that the co-sponsors of this deal is France and the US, and they have indicated that they will be directly involved, not with military staff on the ground, but directly involved in overseeing and acting as guarantors of this agreement. Also, what is very different is that Hezbollah has been severely weakened. and then also the constant attacks on Lebanon, the damage, the death caused by especially Israeli actions in Lebanon, probably galvanized the population to probably have a different understanding and a different approach to this. Not necessarily supporting everything that has been agreed, but at least understanding that the consequences are very different and they cannot allow another round of fighting like this to happen. So there seems to be an understanding and a political willingness, but one must also be realistic. It's going to be difficult. There's a lot of deep political divisions everywhere around this issue.
Yeah.
And of course, differences about the peacefire agreement itself, or the ceasefire agreement, especially also in Israel. Many people are not happy with it. So there are many challenges to make this stick and actually see that this is the end of the fighting that has started.
So the natural question, Roland, is, does this have any implications for what I've said is a cataclysmic humanitarian situation and the war playing itself out in Gaza? And the answer to that from Benjamin Netanyahu is that no, it does not. But do you read it as perhaps there's some other conversations that perhaps you and I would not be privy to, that perhaps this ceasefire with Hezbollah could be the start, and perhaps there could be momentum that is gained from that?
I think it might change the dynamics, and it may add to the pressure because, so yes, the two are not linked. There's no ceasefire deal in Gaza, but it may start pushing in that direction. And it's actually interesting that the interpretation so far was that Netanyahu is going to push this war because he relies on President-elect Trump to support him and achieve his objectives. Now, Mr. Trump has indicated, and we know from the past that he supported Netanyahu, but this was brokered by France and the Biden administration. And one wonders what the thinking behind this is. Yes, the two areas are different. Lebanon is an independent sovereign state, member of the UN. Gaza does not have that status. But maybe there's something happening, and maybe there's other pressures developing. Maybe the Trump administration is going to not create the kind of environment that Netanyahu is comfortable with, and may actually look at Gaza in a different way. But that is speculation. I mean, there's no clear indication of what's going to happen there. What is important, though, is that the cooperation between Hezbollah and the different role players in Gaza and to the south is definitely different. And that is a result of the war and the destruction that has been wreaked, but also the weakening of the military structures of all the organizations in the area that opposed Israel.
All right, thank you for that. That's Roland Henwood. He's a political scientist and commentator at the University of Pretoria, weighing in on the ceasefire that has been announced between Israel and Hezbollah in Lebanon. And that brings us to 6:30. Let's check in with Ann Musa now with the latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, the Financial Sector Conduct Authority says it expects the cost of implementing the two-part retirement system to increase by 300 million rand annually. EFF leader Julius Malema has instructed his party's lawyers to attach former President Jacob Zuma's Nkandla home over money he owes to the EFF. Malema says Zuma used the money to pay lawyers in several of his legal challenges. And U.S. President Joe Biden has welcomed a ceasefire which America and France have brokered between Israel and Hezbollah. I'll have details on these and other stories at 7.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Keeping on the N1 South through Pretoria, it's pretty heavily backed already down towards the sinkhole repairs at the R21. Just anecdotally, it looks heavier and it looks earlier than what you'd normally be expecting. So we did forecast a busy Wednesday, and it looks like that is actually unfolding. If you leave Pretoria on the N1, it's already jam-packed. Try and get onto some alternative routes where possible. Jetlags Mike 1 under pressure today, worse than normal as well, queuing up heavily from Ormonde all the way through to Bra Bloemfontein's Empire Road. A crash on the N3 North ramp to the N12 East at Galuli's. That's putting heavy pressure back as far as the cement factory and probably even back into Elan's interchange territory. And the run through Midrand looking pretty busy as well. Don't forget, once you get through that big backlog at Pretoria, if you continue down through Midrand, you're going to hit a wall of traffic between Brockfontein and the Allendale Road off-ramp this morning. M19, Reservoir Hills between New Germany and Pinetown has reopened after earlier protesting. Blocked that road this morning, but it is, we are seeing traffic flowing both ways. Stationary truck at Cliffdale, so a little bit of a slowdown there. And Cape Town's N2 inbound looking busy. Queues passing Khayelitsha towards the R300. More queues from the airport runway all the way through towards the Jan Smuts Drive exit in the Athlone area. And East London getting a lot of rain this morning. I've seen some videos and pictures. Looks pretty slippery. Drive carefully. Watch your speeds. Increase following distances. And headlights on during wet weather conditions, please. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Good morning, Zai. I think it's safe to say, isn't it, that Manqoba Mngqithi is a coach under pressure.
Oh, yeah. A goalless draw in Pretoria at Loftus.
Against a team called...
yes.
Who are these guys?
Yeah.
What's their name?
Manyema.
Yeah.
Exactly. They came in as underdogs. And, there was no goals. We were just left barking. That's all I can tell you with Sundowns. That's how they began their CAF Champions League group stage campaign. Coach Manqoba Mngqithi making 6 changes to the squad. He was aiming for freshness after a grueling Carling knockout match over the weekend. The Downs boss, however, praising his team's control despite not playing their strongest 11, hinting that, there could be a team to watch this season. While some players didn't quite deliver, Mngqithi is confident that Sundowns will step it up against AS FAR and Raja Casablanca.
Unfortunately, they could not show how good they are because they relied more on transitions in this game, and I think we controlled the ball very well. We did not lose too many balls. We made the game to favour us by controlling almost all football actions. The only thing that we did not do in the game today, in my opinion, I think is to score goals.
Now, we also had Orlando Pirates. They secured a crucial 3 points in their CAF Champions League group stage opener. All happened in Algiers. They closed out to a 2-1 win against CR Belouizdad. Al Ahly, they secured a 4-2 victory over Stade Abidjan in the CAF Champions League Group C match played at the Cairo International Stadium last night. And closer to home, TS Galaxy had a 3-1 win over Sekhukhune United at the Peter Mokaba Stadium, grabbing their first win of the season. And the other match saw Chippa United sharing the spoils with SuperSport United after the two teams played to a 0-0 draw, and that match took place at the Nelson Mandela Bay Stadium. The draw leaving the Tuli Boys placed 5th in the league standings, and they are now winless in 2 matches. Masat Sansa, on the other hand, also winless in 2 matches, are placed 8th in the standings. Elsewhere, Arsenal produced a statement win as Mikel Arteta's full-strength side thrashed Sporting 5-1 in Lisbon to boost their chances of automatic Champions League qualification. And Julian Alvarez and second-half substitute Angel Correa scored twice at Atletico Madrid. They cruised 6-0 at struggling Sparta Prague, also Champions League action. And rugby, Devon Williams is relishing the opportunity to fill a big hole in the Vodacom Bulls back 3 that was left by Springbok Kurtley Arendse when the URC resumes this week. The Bulls are gearing up to tackle Connacht. That's on Saturday in round 7 of the competition. They enter the clash 3rd in the standings and riding high on a 4 out of 5 win record after their opening matches. And cricket, the Proteas women all-rounder Elise Marie Marks is confident that the South Africans can bounce back in the second T20 against England at Willamore Park. That's in Benoni tonight at 6 p.m. England secured a 4-wicket victory in the first T20 on Sunday. Marie Marks expressed optimism ahead of the clash.
Well, yeah, if we look at the batting side, obviously losing wickets and clusters didn't really help us. Also, from a bowling point of view, tightening up a little bit in the boundary balls, but yeah, that really is some small areas of improvement needed to level the series tomorrow.
And finally, Salim Ayub struck an unbeaten 113 as Pakistan beat Zimbabwe by 10 wickets in Bulawayo to level a one-day international series with one match still to come. That's how we wrap up sport on the morning brief. There's more top of the hour. I'm Sai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Let's say good morning to Ndauling Lechela. So Ndauling, we are getting a glimpse of the thinking of the Federal Reserve about how hawkish or how cautious they should be around issues such as interest rate cuts.
That's right, Silas. And in the latest Fed minutes, policymakers have confirmed that they expect to continue to reduce rates, but their tone leans more to a hawkish side, saying rates will be cut gradually, pouring cold water on ideas of a big rate cut like the one we got in September. And of course, this is according to the minutes. The November meeting wrapped up 2 days after the U.S. election, where Donald Trump emerged victorious. Now, the election was barely mentioned in the meeting minutes, except for a staff observation that stock market volatility surged before the November 5th results and subsided afterward. The implications of fiscal policy weren't discussed despite expectations that the president-elect's plans, including lower taxes and aggressive deregulation, could impact the economy. But officials did express uncertainty about the evolving economic conditions and whether those tariffs do come through and the impact that would have on inflation. So policymakers leading more to conversations around the trajectory of inflation and the labor market's resilience, in which they affirmed in the short term they were comfortable with where those indicators stood, and that they'll remain data dependent when it comes to adjusting monetary policy. The Fed's tone very similar to the SARB's, policymakers taking it print by print and not committing to a certain rate cutting cycle.
Tell me about this interesting M&A activity in the financial sector in Europe. Maybe you want to tell me the story in Italian. Italia, Banco BPM is rejecting this takeover bid.
So the banking sector in Europe has been under scrutiny of late, and consolidation there has been closely watched following the banking crisis last year when we saw Swiss bank Credit Suisse collapse. It was then picked up by rival UBS. So we've been seeing a lot of takeover bids happening there. We've been seeing a lot of the bigger banks vying for the smaller banks, the smaller regional banks, with support of the government as well. Now, this week we've had takeover talks in the sector, top headlines with Italian banks under the spotlight. In a surprise move, Italian lender UniCredit submitted a takeover bid of its smaller rival, Banco BPM. The deal that was put through at the top of the week is just over 10 billion euros. Banco BPM shareholders met soon after the bid was put through and further rejected it, saying it undervalues its business. Now, following the announcement, Banco BPM warned its shareholders that they'll face uncertainty due to UniCredit's plans to also expand in Germany, where it's looking to acquire another smaller rival German bank, Commerzbank. As a result, a passivity rule kicks in. The rule stops the managers of the target company from taking any actions that might block the takeover bid unless they get approval from shareholders first. This rule affects Banco BPM because it means it can't increase its offer price for another company it's invested in, Anima. Now, the rejection of UniCredit's bid for Banco BPM is actually welcome news for the Italian government. UniCredit's bid had disrupted the government's existing plans to merge BPM with a smaller rival bank. The government had envisioned this merger as a way to strengthen Italy's banking sector while maintaining healthy competition.
All right, lastly, Ndauling, your first recap of the markets here at home and elsewhere in the world.
Starting off in the U.S., those stocks ending in the green yesterday, being driven by gains in the tech sector, with the Nasdaq closing over 0.6% higher. The same kind of upbeat trend playing out here at home, with markets recovering after a disappointing start to the week. The all-share ending yesterday's trading session up 0.6%, driven by gains in the industrial 25 up 0.85%. This, however, not filtering through to the currency market, with the rand still on the back foot, trading at 18.17 to the dollar. Over in Asia, it's another mixed day of trade on that front. Investors digesting the Fed minutes while eyeing commentary from Trump around those tariffs.
All right, thank you for that. That's Ndawuleng Lechela. She's got her eyes on the money, and she'll be coming back with another update just after 7:30 here on The Morning Brief.
Whatever your need for a personal loan, choose a bank that's best for your loans. Nedbank offers loans of up to 400,000 Rand at the best possible interest rate. And there's more. Open a My Goals Plus or My Goals Premium account, and you could enjoy 200 Rand cashback every month for the duration of your loan term. That's up to 14,400 Rand cashback. Visit nedbank.co.za to apply for your tailored personal loan. See money differently. Nedbank. We are a licensed FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Imagine if every child born today and tomorrow and the next day and the next had enough love, enough food, enough safety and brain power. Today and tomorrow and the next day and the next. Together, we will change our future. Visit holdmyhand.org.za.
So why should I use We Buy Cars if I want to sell my vehicle?
Because We Buy Cars buys cars.
But will I get the right price?
Of course. We Buy Cars buys thousands of vehicles and knows exactly what every vehicle is worth. Their buyers deliver exceptional service and pay you immediately.
And how do I know what they'll pay for my vehicle?
It's easy. Visit webuycars.co.za or use the We Buy Cars app. Follow the simple steps and voila, you'll get a fantastic price for your car. We Buy Cars. Quick, easy, the best.
South Africa, it's time to fly. FlySafair is giving away a whopping 1 million Rand in flight vouchers to help your adventures come alive in 2025. Just think, you could be one of 10 lucky winners to fly away with 100,000 Rand each in flight vouchers. Oh, the places you could go, the faces you could see. Simply enter at flysafair.co.za today. And who knows, this could be your 1 in a million opportunity. FlySafair, for the love of flying. T's and C's apply.
SAFM values your views. Be an active citizen.
17 minutes to 7. Let's focus on developments in Namibia now. It's been a historic time for countries in Southern Africa, certainly in as far as the tenure and grip on power of former liberation movements. And the focus now, after Botswana, as well as what we saw playing out in Mozambique and here at home in South Africa recently with the ANC, now we turn to Namibia. Namibia is holding its elections today. The governing Southwestern Africa People's Organization, Southwest Africa People's Organization, SWAPO, which has been in power since 1990, remains strong in the country's populous northern regions. SWAPO has already seen a decline in support, however, and in Namibia's 2019 parliamentary elections, it lost its two-thirds majority in the National Assembly for the first time since independence. I'm joined by Eliaze Ndeanale, who is a Namibian journalist, to take us through the expectations for today. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time. So these elections that are taking place today, presidential and parliamentary elections, are billed as being the most competitive and tightly contested yet. Why is that? Why do we build them that way?
Morning. You're speaking to Eliaser. Yeah, it's like that because this election would see. I mean, it's a historic election because it would see the nation elect the first female president, or witness the opposition taking power for the first time.
Eliezer, we're battling to hear you. Can I just ask you to pull over for a moment, and the producers will just talk to you. We'd like to get the full benefit of that conversation with Eliezer Simelane, who is a Namibian journalist. We're looking to have him back on a much better line so that you get the full benefit of what he has to say about the historic elections that are about to take place in Namibia. And those elections are parliamentary elections and presidential elections, and I was setting them against the backdrop of the change of governing party that recently took place in Botswana. You also saw what happened here in South Africa, the ANC losing its majority. I believe we have Eliezer back on the line and on a better line. So you were saying these are historic elections, Eliezer. Tell us why.
Yes. Because this election could see the nation elect first women president, or witnessing the opposition taking power for the first time. However, this decision rests with the voters.
Yeah. So tell me about the field of competitors. 15 political parties, I believe, vying for 15 presidential candidates. Tell me a bit more about who's in the running.
In the running is Panduleni Tula of the Independent Patriots for Change, who is seen as the strongest contenders against the SWAPO candidate. The second one is McHenry Venani from the Popular Democratic Movement. The third one is a young man who is 37 years old, the University of Namibia Professor Joba Mupanda. And then we have former SWAPO Party Youth League leader Bernardo Swartboy from the Landless People's Movement, and a lot of them, I think like 10 of them that I have not spoken about.
So tell me about the current Vice President, Netumbo Nandi Ndaitwa, and the possibility of her becoming the country's first female president. What are her chances, and what platform is she running on?
I looking at her campaigns, I believe that she is going to win. But it's now the question is with how many percent. Obviously, what we expect is that SWAPO losing some seats in the National Assembly, which is Parliament, and also she's paraded by her party as an anti-corruption candidate.
Okay. So,
yes.
So, if she wins the way that you suspect that and predict that she might, this would be a reversal of fortunes for SWAPO, wouldn't it? In terms of the decline, at the last election, the late President Haig Geingob got 56% or thereabouts, and then that was followed by a strong showing by the opposition in the local government and regional elections.
Yes. Yeah, at stake is SWAPO's dominance now, and we believe that I think SWAPO will get between maybe 55%. Between 54, 55%.
All right.
Not SWAPO, but both SWAPO and Netumbo. Yeah.
Okay. All right. No, thank you for that, Eliezer. We'll keep an eye on it, and we'll touch base with you to just get an update. That is Eliezer Simelane, who is a Namibian journalist, updating us about the elections taking place in Namibia today.
SAFM. Guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Just tracking some delays coming through from Brackbound and Springs on your way to Joburg. It's a crash between Rondebolt Road and Osborne Road, so traffic is quite heavily backed up in that particular area. The collision before you get to the Osborne Road exit. Very heavy on Route 1 this morning between Pretoria and Joburg. Your big delays from Atterbury Road down to the roadworks at the R21, and then it gets heavy again from Brockfontein all the way to a point just after the new road exit. Big traffic up the N3 M3, a crash inside Galuli's N3 North queuing heavily from the Elands interchange territory. Durban, a taxi overturning on the Higginson Highway just by Havenside if you're leaving Chatsworth. That's pretty heavily backed out towards sort of Mabeni and the N2. Cape Town, a lot of pressure on the N2, built up from, Baden-Powell Spine Road territory coming in past Khayelitsha to the R300, and then more queues, heavy queues from the airport through to about the Smuts Drive exit this morning. It is a little bit wet again, overcast and sort of damp and drizzly around the Cape Town region. Heavier rain out in East London, and we are seeing first reports of sort of multiple bumps and shunts, motorists just losing control on slippery roads. Please just slow down, give yourself extra time to get through. The roads are particularly slippery around the Eastern Cape area this morning with some quite heavy widespread rainfall. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Weeknights on S3 are anything but ordinary. BBC Primetime brings you the best of British television from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Love a good murder mystery? Then Death in Paradise Season 3 will keep you entertained with a series of impossible murders on the beautiful Caribbean island of St. Marie. Monday to Wednesday at 9 p.m. Channel your inner vroom with Top Gear Season 25 and 26, Monday to Wednesday at 10 p.m. Channel your best entertainment with BBC Primetime only on S3. Open up.
Ask a man who's late for work after his car got hit by a truck, desperately waiting for help, if he's glad he saved 14 Rand on his insurance premium. Ask a man if buying the cheapest insurance was really worth it. And now ask yourself, when suddenly happens, who's there for you?
Auto in general. Car insurance with Auto SOS. Emergency accident detection and response. Visit autogen.co.za for a quote. Auto SOS is available to comprehensive car customers. A&G is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
South Africa, it's time to fly. FlySafair is giving away a whopping 1 million Rand in flight vouchers to help your adventures come alive in 2025. Just think, you could be one of 10 lucky winners to fly away with 100,000 Rand each in flight vouchers. Oh, the places you could go, the faces you could see. Simply enter at flysafair.co.za today. And who knows, this could be your 1 in a million opportunity. FlySafair, for the love of flying. T's and C's apply.
Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
Yeah, this story is going to be hugely consequential for all of us. The South African Policing Union, that's SAPU, says its members have rejected government's proposed 4.7% wage offer for public servants. The union says it will officially inform government of the decision taken by its members this week. SAPU says alongside other public sector unions, it is hoping to resume talks with the Coordinating Bargaining Council soon. For more on this, then, I'm joined by Lesiba Tobakale, who is the South African Police Union spokesperson. Good morning to you, Lesiba, and thank you for your time. Why is this offer of 4.7% wage increase not acceptable to your members?
And greetings to your listeners. Indeed, the offer by the employer is really not sufficient when we look at the cost of living and when we look at the food basket. Indeed, it really suggests to us that there is more that government needs to put for public servants. I mean, you could remember that for 2 years, government has since taken what we call a pension break in terms of increasing contributions to the pension of the workers because of the non-implementation of the last leg of the 2018 agreement in 2020, and as well as when cash gratuity was then introduced. So as we see the high cost of living, indeed, it really necessitates that ultimately the public servants, they really need to get a real salary increase. And you could remember that we started at 12%. And as we went through negotiations, because negotiations, it is about giving and taking. And as we speak, we are standing at 7.5, but we haven't seen employer having a significant move. We went to seek a mandate from our members, and majority of our members, they mandated us clearly that we should reject the current offer made by the employer. And as we are looking forward to go back to the bargaining council, maybe late this week or early next week, we are hopeful that government would then be able to really make a significant move as we are in wage negotiations. That is what we are expecting from government, because in most cases, Bob Simelane, you find that the salary increase, if it is not quite a real salary increase, it goes to pay things like medical aid. And at the end of the day, there is nothing that really shows as a take home that a worker can say, I've received a salary increase, as we have, high cost of medical aids like your GEMS, which have high increases and so on. So we really need to see the food basket really coming up and really coming up for the workers.
So is it your sense then that if government were to improve the cash component of that remuneration package as opposed to the other elements that it contributes to, that would sort of move the needle for your members?
Now, remember, we started the cost of living adjustment, which is COLA, which is that salary increase. That is the main one, because that is the one that really brings some significant move. That's why we are saying, as we are standing at 7.5, let government really come closer to us at 7.5, because that on its own, it will really bring a significant change to a take-home of the workers. And also, yes, we are also pushing for other issues that other residual issues which are there as well, to say that we really need to strike a balance and really have something as a good outcome that will really favor the workers when we conclude this round of wage negotiations.
So I guess what I'm asking is, are you looking to have government step up and sort of increase its contribution to the likes of medical aid, for example, housing allowances, as well as provisions for such things as danger pay, which many in the private sector will say those are benefits that we simply don't enjoy anymore in the current economy?
Yeah, definitely. All of those issues you are mentioning, they are part of our demands that we have made. It is not only on COLA or the cost of living adjustment or the salary increase, but we have got other issues to say. We need to see the housing allowance increasing. We want the contribution of the MPI, the one that goes clearly to the medical aid. We want to see an increase on that. The issues that deals with your service allowance, more especially for the police, as we see the dangers that the police are faced with. 700 indeed, let's be honest, is nothing when we compare to the dangers that members who are working for the police are faced with when we see this high rate of police killings. So we have those types of demands as well, to say we really need to see a significant move coming from the employer, and we take everything as a package.
And is it true that you are demanding a 2,500 Rand increase in housing allowances?
Yeah, that was our initial. That was our initial demand. Yeah, it was our initial demand. But we are in wage negotiations, where indeed, we really look at what is it that we can really be able to work around. But that was our very initial demand.
Do you have any sense of understanding around what government says, that they are trying to rein in the public debt, that it's just escalated so much that all around there are all sorts of measures being brought in to contain costs? Do you have any sense of sympathy for that?
Unfortunately, Bob Simelane, when it comes to public servants, the 1.2 million, that's where all of those issues they get to be brought about, to really show how disingenuous the employer was. When they responded to our demands, they went even up to salary level 16, whereas in the in the PSCPC, we negotiate up to salary level 12. They came with the costs thereof, which are not even under the PSCPC. And it is a common, it is a fact that government spend money where they want to spend money. They were able to increase ministries, they were able to increase deputy ministers and so on. So it is where government wants to spend money. But when it comes to public servants, we come to be told about the cost-cutting measures. We get to be told about austerity. Government needs to be decisive to say public servants are there rendering a service to the public on behalf of government. And the least that government can do is to make sure they take care of them, not especially when it comes to issues that deals with the conditions of service and remuneration.
And what does this rejection of this current offer, where does it leave us at this point on the trajectory of these negotiations?
We are still in negotiations. Remember, we haven't rejected it formally in council. that is what we will be doing when we go back to the next council meeting. And from there, our expectation is that we need to continue with wage negotiations. We haven't yet reached a stalemate. We haven't yet said that, we cannot continue with wage negotiations and so on.
Okay.
But we are still in negotiations. That's why we are saying government, they must come to the party.
All right, thank you for that. Lisiba Tobakhale is a spokesperson of the South African Police Union. And that brings us to 7 a.m. Let's check in with N. Musa now with the latest news.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. Now that's good news.
In our top stories, costs on implementing the two-part retirement system, and Biden welcomes Lebanon's ceasefire deal. Good morning. The Financial Sector Conduct Authority says it expects the cost of implementing the two-part retirement system to increase by 300 million rand annually. It has put the cost since the implementation of the system on September the 1st at 1.6 billion rand. The financial regulator says this includes additional staff to deal with queries, communication, as well as new call centers. Deputy Commissioner Astrid Luden presented the financial regulator's report to Parliament's Standing Committee on Finance yesterday.
So the cost, based on the feedback we've received from the administrators of implementing the two-component system, has been 1.6 billion. Most of that has come from system changes, and all the large administrators had significant spend on their system changes, but you can also see additional costs, for example, around the member communication. There was a lot of communication and education that needed to go out.
EFF leader Julius Malema has instructed his party's lawyers to attach former President Jacob Zuma's Nkandla home over money he owes the EFF. Malema says that Zuma used the money to pay lawyers in several of his legal challenges. Malema's statement comes after several members of the EFF, including his former deputy Floyd Shivambu, defected to Zuma's Thulasizwe party. Malema addressed EFF members who marched to the Constitutional Court in Johannesburg yesterday.
Fighters, all the cases we won against Jacob Zuma, he never paid the legal fees. Zuma is owing us the legal fees. We've got an order that he must pay us our money because we're defeating him in court. Now he has not complied with that order of paying our money. We just instructed our lawyer to go and attach Nkandla so that the man pays back our money.
Police in Gauteng say they've killed one suspect in a kidnapping attempt in Ivory Park in Midrand, Johannesburg. 9 other suspects were arrested in the incident, which happened yesterday. Officers also seized 3 firearms and a vehicle. Various police agencies as well as private security company acted on information on a plan to kidnap a businessman based in Benoni. Police spokesperson Amanda van Wyk.
Further investigation revealed that the 3 seized firearms and the suspect's vehicle are positively linked to other criminal cases. The deceased suspect had recently been released from prison.
Namibians are today set to vote for a new president and members of parliament. The governing party is facing a tough challenge from opposition parties, including the Popular Democratic Movement and Independent Patriots for Change. More than 1.4 million registered electorate are expected to exercise their right to vote. These Namibians say they want to see positive change after the elections.
What I want to see after elections is I want the unemployment rate to reduce, and for the unemployment people, or the less fortunate people, to get a chance also for the landless people.
I want to job, I want to work in order to help my family and my kids also.
And finally, U.S. President Joe Biden has welcomed a ceasefire which America and France have brokered between Israel and Hezbollah. He says the ceasefire, which has already taken effect, shows that peace is possible. But less than an hour before the deadline, there were reports of a new Israeli strike over the Lebanese capital, Beirut. The BBC's Rowan Bridge reports.
The Americans clearly hope that this will create a degree of sort of momentum within the region and that this will be a first step towards a potential deal around Gaza. And certainly Joe Biden was sounding optimistic about that. But I think the pessimists would say there is a risk that actually what happens is that the Israelis are able to withdraw their troops from the sort of Lebanese border and focus more on Gaza. And so I think part of the question will be how willing are the Israelis to then countenance the idea of a sort of peace deal around Gaza as well.
Recapping the top story, the Financial Sector Conduct Authority says it expects the cost of implementing the two-part retirement system to increase by 300 million rand annually. It has put the cost since the implementation of the system on September the 1st at 1.6 billion rand. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Those were the top stories for this hour. Don't miss out on a possible car insurance saving. SMS out to 30754 for a quote. Outsurance, where you always get something out.
Black Friday is the season for unbelievable savings, and Outsurance has a deal you cannot miss. Get a quote, and if Outsurance can't beat your car insurance premium, ask for 500 Rand cash. Make that 1,500 Rand cash if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. Monthly savings if they are cheaper, or cash in your pocket. SMS out to 30754 to switch and save today. That's out to 30754. Outsurance, where you always get something out. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Very heavy on the Ekurhuleni side of Gauteng this morning. A crash on the N17 between Rondebolt Road and Osborne Road. That's quite heavy if you're leaving Brakpan and Springs. Crash inside Galuli's interchange, badly affecting the N3 North. The crash is on the ramp off the N3 onto the N12 East. And that traffic backlogging from Alberton and Germiston areas. And in fact, once you get through that, you then stay in traffic all the way up to basically Marlborough Drive. So from Germiston through Limbro, absolutely jam-packed. Some delays leaving Soweto on the M1 North towards Main Reef Road Bridge. More traffic congestion between Bayers Nordia and Rivonia Road. That's a route that's getting busy again on a daily basis. And lots of traffic between Pretoria and Joburg, though heavy queues from Atterbury down to the R21 and then Brockfontein all the way to New Road. Two big backlogs to get through. Truck crash just north of Ladysmith this morning. If you're moving up towards Newcastle or down to Ladysmith, expect some delays there. Cape Town's N7 jam-packed between Voortrekker Road and that busy Bosmansdam off-ramp, and no traffic lights on Baden-Powell Drive at the N2 highway. So a little bit of extra delay, particularly if you're coming up from the Khayelitsha side direction, Stellenbosch. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
A very good morning to you in your SFM Sports headlines. It's soccer action. Orlando Pirates kicked off their CAF Champions League campaign in style, defeating Algeria's CR Belouizdad 2-1 in a thrilling Group C opener last night. And cycling, the cycling chiefs have requested that the World Anti-Doping Agency take a position on the controversial but legal carbon monoxide breathing method. Let's find out more at around 7:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
8 minutes after 7 on this Wednesday. Good morning, South Africa. You're listening to the Morning Brief here on SAFM. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane. Let me just quickly tell you what we'll be focusing on in the next half hour. The Auditor General, Tsakani Maluleke, reporting to Parliament yesterday on the national and provincial government departments and their entities. This is for the financial year 2023 to 2024. And I've summed it up in my mind by calling it a case of the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good, the AG is impressed with progress made, particularly in the 6th administration, on reporting and ensuring that there's accountability for finances and what she calls the accountability ecosystem is improving and that many more of those entities are coming into play, and there's a concerted effort to try and improve. So the number of clean audits now stands at about 142. I know that there's a discrepancy. The media release from the AG says 142, but the presentation says 144. But let's go with 142 for now. The bad, the so-called high-impact auditees continue to struggle with financial management, and these are auditees that play in the space of higher education funding. So the likes of NSFAS, the Road Accident Fund, the CETA, the infrastructure-related auditees, those continue to struggle, and they contribute to many of the problems, particularly around managing procurement processes. The ugly, wasteful and fruitless expenditure amounted to some 10 billion rand over the term of the 6th administration, so the 5 years of the 6th administration. Just think what we could have done with 10 billion rand that was wasteful and fruitless expenditure. So I'm due to speak to Songezo Zibi, who is the chairperson of Parliament's Standing Committee on Public Accounts, SCOPA, in the next few minutes. Then we'll touch base on the what I've called the clash of the titans, these arguments that were presented by the lawyers representing the EFF and the ATM on the one side, and also the others representing the National Assembly, its Speaker, the President, the ANC, and others on the other hand. At the heart of the issue, of course, Parliament's decision to not adopt a report of an independent panel that was looking into the question of whether or not President Cyril Ramaphosa had a case to answer around impeachment, around the issue of Parapara and what happened on that farm. So those are the two big stories that we are focusing on in this half hour. All your regulars locked and loaded for you, but also we'll take your calls. The number to dial 086 000 2032. I'll also take your WhatsApp voice notes. Please send those to 061 410 4107. This is SAFM. We are leading the conversations that move us. The second hour of the Wednesday edition of the Morning Brief starts now.
Everybody needs an island adventure. Think about it. White sandy beaches, tall coconut trees, the sun shining down on you. Moments that will have you singing, when the water's so blue. Well, this is no typical island adventure. 18 contestants will spend 39 days on the island of the idols, strategizing, backstabbing, forging and breaking alliances. Here, their meals aren't guaranteed. They eat what they catch. One mistake or betrayal might get them kicked off the island. It's a battle for $1 million on Survivor 39. Channel your best reality with Survivor Season 39. Island of the Idols, Thursdays at 6 p.m. on S3. Open up.
South Africa, it's time to fly. FlySafair is giving away a whopping 1 million rand in flight vouchers to help your adventures come alive in 2025. Just think, you could be one of 10 lucky winners to fly away with 100,000 rand each in flight vouchers. Oh, the places you could go, the faces you could see. Simply enter at flysafair.co.za today. And who knows, this could be your 1 in a million opportunity. FlySafair, for the love of flying. T's and C's apply.
Black Friday equals unbeatable deals and mega savings. With Outsurance, it's Black Friday every day. Get a quote, and if Outsurance can't beat your car insurance premium, ask for 500 Rand cash. Make that 1,500 Rand cash if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. Monthly savings if they are cheaper, or cash in your pocket. SMS out to 30754 to switch and save today. That's out to 30754. Outsurance, where you always get something out. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
SAFM. Prime time all day long.
All right, at 14 minutes after 7, let's turn to this story now. Auditor General Tsakani Maluleke tabled the 2023-2024 audit outcomes for national and provincial government departments and entities to the chairpersons of parliamentary committees, and that happened yesterday. In that report, those outcomes, Maluleke reported that audit outcomes improved from 2018 to 2019, that financial year, and the number of clean audits increased from 93 in that year to 142 now. She noted that several more auditees improved their audit outcomes than regressed, and this is over the 2023-2024 financial year. Let's speak to Songezo Zibi. He is the chairperson of Parliament's Standing Committee on Public Accounts, SCOPA. Good morning to you, Songezo, and thank you for your time. So just tell me your sense then. Do you get a sense that we are on the right track? The AG certainly, and in fact at some point I even remarked that it was almost like gushing about the improvements recorded over the sixth administration. Do you share that sentiment?
Good morning, Thulasizwe. Thanks very much for having me on. Look, I think the Auditor General has very good reason to be highly optimistic, because the situation has been extremely bad in the past with very little improvement. So it is good that we see some improvement in the system. But I want listeners to understand what all this means. What the fundamental problem that the Auditor General has had before is the accuracy or availability of information at all. It is what causes the disclaimers. It does not mean there is no maladministration. It does not mean that the objectives are being met. It does not mean that the government is paying good value for money. There has simply not been sufficient information to reach those conclusions. So in many instances, what this means is that the record keeping, the management, and the accuracy of the information for the Auditor General to reach a conclusion is significantly improving. What we need to start improving now are the outcomes, because those remain far behind where they should be.
The Auditor General is concerned, Songezo, with what she calls the high-impact auditees, and she outlines how those relate directly to service delivery. I imagine that you would share that concern as well as SCOPA, given your own work that you do to follow through on issues of public spending and how it translates to better life for South Africans.
No, absolutely. For instance, the Auditor General was able to show, I may get the figure slightly wrong, that in about 38 billion of tenders or thereabouts, the government paid more than it should have. Now, that attests to the quality of the information. What do we need to solve now? It is the problem of the government overpaying for goods and services, in some instances because of poor administration or poor management and leadership, in other cases because of corruption. So the quality of the information the Auditor General receives and is able to assess means that we get a better understanding of the kind of problems that we have in the system so that we can tackle them. And that's one of the things my committee, the Standing Committee on Public Accounts, is going to focus on. Whether the government is paying good value for money, whether projects are delayed and cost more as a result, and whether government contracts are awarded fairly so that we can get the good value for money.
And I imagine, Songezo, that you will also focus a bit on fruitless and wasteful expenditure. Over the term of the sixth administration, it totaled some 10.3 billion rand. Granted, I've not checked what the equivalent was for the fifth administration, but 10.3 billion rand is money that South Africans really could have used could have put to better use.
No, absolutely, Thulasizwe. I mean, I'll give you just two very quick examples. So we had a government department, and I don't want to look like I'm targeting them. They're the most recent, the Auditor General presented on. That was the Department of Defense. Two instances. There was supposed to be a training course that some officials were supposed to attend at just over 1 million rand. They didn't go. So that money was gone. Those fees are paid. Example number one. Example number two, at 2 military hospitals, they procured a hospital equipment that was never used, is now obsolete. Several million rand gone. That is how the fruitless and wasteful expenditure happens through the system. And that's a factor of management, proper procurement planning and contract management and proper contract management. In other words, the kind of contract the government has with suppliers does not result in financial loss in the end.
Yeah. Just in terms of the entities, and perhaps as a parting shot, Songezo, among the auditees that were flagged, if I recall correctly, there was talk about the CETA, that is the IT agency of the state. There was talk also about the Road Accident Fund being a one of the auditees of concern. What will you, as a committee, do to ensure that these auditees that are in a spot of bother move from that position?
So these were two things that we are going to do as a committee. And we've said this a few times. The first is that we are not going to wait until another audit to see how things have gone. We are going to get into a cycle of quarterly reporting or half-yearly reporting in writing or in person for some entities so that we can see whether the undertakings made are happening. For instance, some entities say there's going to be consequence management. I hate that word, but consequence management where people are disciplined and so on, and it never happens. We are going to ask for quarterly reports in those instances to see whether they've made a progress. If not, we're going to call them in Parliament and issue them with new instructions all the way up to the minister. I want to get back to the issue of the Road Accident Fund again, Thulasizwe, because you and I spoke about it. What is happening in this instance is constitutionally offensive, because you have an agency of government choosing to apply a different accounting formula than the National Treasury and Accounting Standards direct. If you look at the most recent medium-term budget policy statement, the adjusted budget review, you will see that the liability number that is put there by our own National Treasury is different to what the Road Accident Fund insists on reporting. I don't know of a single country where that level of lawlessness happens. And it is important that Parliament, and we are going to do this as a Standing Committee on Public Accounts, make sure that such is dealt with by the executive. Unfortunately, the minister has said that will hopefully come to an end, but we're going to hold it to an end of the bargain. It does not happen anywhere else, but in South Africa it does. And it's that level of lawlessness that leads to the kind of problems the Auditor General is talking about.
All right, Songezo, thank you for your time. We could pull at so many threads from the Auditor General's report to Parliament. In fact, one I do need to mention, the estimated settlement value of claims against departments, get this, totaled to 105.57 billion rand. So that's by the end of 2023. These are claims, legal claims and the likes. 105.5 billion rand. Just think about that for a moment. Okay, Songezo Zibi is the chairperson of Parliament's Standing Committee on Public Accounts.
Weeknights on S3 are anything but ordinary. BBC Primetime brings you the best of British television from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Love a good murder mystery? Then Death in Paradise Season 3 will keep you entertained with a series of impossible murders on the beautiful Caribbean island of St. Marie. Monday to Wednesday at 9 p.m. Channel your inner vroom with Top Gear Season 25 and 26, Monday to Wednesday at 10 p.m. Channel your best entertainment with BBC Primetime only on S3. Open up.
Black Friday is finally here. Get ready for irresistible prices on the widest range of products at Dis-Chem. From Monday 25th November to Sunday 1st December. Save 60 Rand when you buy 2 120-gram Citra Soda for only 159 Rand 98. Get 2 plus 1 cheapest free on any Little Bee honey. And buy 2 Slow Mag 30 effervescent tablets for the price of 1. T's and C's apply. Don't miss out. Save big with Dis-Chem's Black Friday deals. Better health starts here.
South Africa, it's time to fly. FlySafair is giving away a whopping 1 million Rand in flight vouchers to help your adventures come alive in 2025. Just think, you could be one of 10 lucky winners to fly away with 100,000 Rand each in flight vouchers. Oh, the places you could go, the faces you could see. Simply enter at flysafair.co.za today. And who knows, this could be your 1 in a million opportunity. FlySafair, for the love of flying. T's and C's apply.
Outsurance are experts in what they do.
They get to understand what type of business are you doing so that they can insure you properly.
It actually validates why we're with them. If you haven't called Outsurance yet, what are you waiting for?
Switch to Business Outsurance today and you could get a massive 20% discount on your business insurance premium. SMS quote to 43328. That's quote to 43328 to switch and save today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
It's Black Friday. You're ready to score that brand new shiny smart TV you've had your eyes on. The deals are insane. 4K resolution, endless apps, the works. You rush to the store, grab your dream TV, and then wham! Wait, what's this? A TV license? Oh no, you didn't pay for it. Now you're stuck with possible penalties and no TV. Avoid the heartache and pay your TV license before you rush off to your new love this Black Friday. It's quick, easy, and way cheaper than penalties. Pay your TV license today at tvlic.co.za. Act now and enjoy your new TV without any worries.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
To this now, the Constitutional Court has reserved judgment in the matter of the theft of thousands of US dollars from President Cyril Ramaphosa's Parapara farm in 2020. The matter was brought to the court by the Economic Freedom Fighters and the African Transformation Movement. The parties want the court to rule that Parliament was wrong to forego an impeachment investigation into Ramaphosa. Let's bring you some analysis then of the arguments. I'm joined on the line by Melusi Xulu, who is Managing Director of Donda Attorneys. Good morning to you, Melusi. So it seems to me we heard the word, not since the days of Bulelani Nguka and the whole issue of a prima facie case, have I heard that word as much as I heard it yesterday. It seemed to me there was a bit of semantics about what the role of the independent panel was. Just take us through what the main arguments were around that issue of what the role of the independent panel, whose report was ultimately not adopted by the National Assembly.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Simelane. I think the first point is what was the duty of the panel? Were they mandated to find the president guilty, or they just had to find a case to answer, which we usually say in law, the prima facie case, or if I'll explain it in simple terms, a case on the face of it. Is it a case that you can see without going deeper? Advocate Katz, in dealing with that or those semantics, he referred to the Kwankwa case, which I believe he was involved in, where he said when that argument was made, the court said a prima facie case is essentially sufficient evidence to prosecute. But I think what is important is that we must not put the panel in the place of the impeachment committee. Let's focus on what the panel had to do with the resources they had at the time, because essentially they could not be able to have oral evidence and so forth. So they used what they had, and then they wanted to establish if there is sufficient evidence or prima facie evidence for them to say the president might have violated the constitution or the law, or there was a serious misconduct.
But they were given a hard time, a torrid time, the lawyers for the EFF and the ATM, were they not? I mean, the arguments between members of the bench, members of the Constitutional Court, certainly around what the panel was supposed to be, looking for. Were they looking for a prima facie case, or were they looking for sufficient evidence for them to then recommend that the matter proceeds to the next stage, which would have been a committee on impeachment?
In my view, Simelane, I believe that when you're talking about prima facie evidence, based on semantics, it can give rise to sufficient evidence. I think when Advocate Ngwaitobi was having one of the engagements with one of the justices, that's what was said essentially by the justice. I just have forgotten his name. That it can be argued that sufficient evidence can be akin to prima facie evidence. But if we're talking about sufficient evidence that can be used in a court of law, I think we are trying to push the panel to do more than is necessary, because they do not have the resources that are available to them. Only the impeachment committee will be able to then get the resources or have oral evidence that could be able to be established the guilt of the president. So I think it's a matter of semantics, but I'm interested to see what the majority of the Constitutional Court will say on that, because it was interesting how prima facie evidence and sufficient evidence was being debated. But I'm drawing you back again to Advocate Kat's argument that when he mentioned a court that said that, I believe it's a high court, say that prima facie evidence is sufficient evidence to prosecute. So it's up to the Constitutional Court judges how they interpret that.
Yeah, I like how, Melusi, you are saying you are interested to hear what the majority of the court will say. So you are predicting that it will be a split decision. It won't be unanimous.
Yes, I foresee something like that.
Yeah, it's one of those difficult questions before the Constitutional Court. Melusi Xulu, thank you for your time this morning. He's Managing Director of Donda Attorneys. At 7:30, let's check in with N. Musa with the latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, Gauteng Economic Development MEC Lebogang Mahile says the cost of servicing the e-tolls debt has severely affected the province's budget. He says despite this, the budget is fairly healthy. The Financial Sector Conduct Authority says it expects the cost of implementing the two-pot retirement system to increase by 300 million rand annually. It has put the cost since the implementation of the system on September the 1st at 1.6 billion rand. And the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres has welcomed the announcement of a ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon. US President Joe Biden confirmed the deal which America and France brokered. I'll have details on these and other stories at 8.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Major delays between Pretoria and Joburg. Got the sinkhole lane closures on the M1 south of the R21. That's pushing a queue to Atterbury, and then it gets heavy again. Brockfontein all the way down to New Road. N3 is pretty heavy, effectively Germiston right through to Marlborough Drive. The crashes you come off the N3 onto the N12 at Giluli is your first problem, and then big traffic up through the Edenvale area towards Marlborough Drive. Crash on the N17 between Rotherbolt Road and Osborne Road. If you're driving into Joburg from Springs and Brakpan, that's heavy. And traffic queuing just out of Soweto up towards the Mareesburg area. Durban's N2 heavy this morning from the M7 all the way through Spaghetti Junction up to Westwood Mall. The N2 southbound backlogging as well. I'm getting to Spaghetti Junction. Looks like something may well have broken down there. Still with a stationary truck at Key Ridge to watch out for as well on your way through to Durban. Cape Town N7 Vangate Mall passing Langa is heavy going north into Epping, and then Goodwood all the way through to Bosmansdam Road. Heavy backlogs there, and big traffic on the N2 this morning from the airport all jammed through to Mowbray Main. Lights are out Baden Powell at the N2 causing some delays heading towards Stellenbosch. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Good morning to you once again, Zai. So mixed fortunes for two of our country's teams on the CAF campaign stage.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's right. We had the very cool of as ice Orlando Pirates.
Mm-hmm.
They really turned, I think, Soweto into their fortress. So it was great to see that they had a fantastic win, 2-1 against CR Belouizdad that took place in Algiers. Mahal Nkota was the hero for the South African side, scoring a sensational brace in the first half. Belouizdad fought back after half-time with Kanyisa Mayo heading in from a corner to halve the deficit. Despite heavy pressure pressure from the Algerian side in the losing stages. The Pirates' defense stood firm to secure a valuable away victory. The win sees Pirates tied with Al Ahly at the top of Group C, trailing only on goal difference. Al Ahly, they had a 4-2 victory over Stade Abidjan in their CAF Champions League Group C match. All happened at the Cairo International Stadium. Now, Mamelodi Sundowns, they began their Champions League group stage campaign with a goalless draw against AS Maniema. And we also have news from TS Galaxy. They had a 3-1 victory over Sekhukhune United at the Peter Mokaba Stadium, grabbing their first win of the season. Chippa United shared the spoils with SuperSport United after the two teams drew 0-0 in a match played at the Nelson Mandela Bay Stadium. Champions League action, Manchester City blew a 3-0 lead to draw 3-3 with Feyenoord in their Champions League encounter, and it definitely stunned the Etihad Stadium. Here's a disappointed Pep Guardiola.
3 episodes, and they didn't allow us to win what we needed for many reasons, not just for the terms of qualification or get the points to go through, for many other reasons, and it's what it is. So difficult to swallow right now, and so the game was good. We scored 3, we could score more, we do everything, but at the end we give away, especially the first one, and after we are not stable enough.
In the meantime, Arsenal produced a statement win. Mikel Arteta's full-strength side thrashed Sporting 5-1 in Lisbon, boosting their chances of automatic Champions League qualification.
To play to the level with the determination, the purpose, the fluidity that we've done today, very pleased. We were so good, you have to be so good in every department, and we suffered as well in many moments in the game, but we were so effective and so efficient when we started to attack the opposition goal.
That was Mikel Arteta, the Arsenal boss, on the morning brief. In the meantime, Julian Alvarez and the second-half substitute Angel Correa scored twice as Atletico Madrid cruised to a 6-0 win at struggling Sparta Prague. And cricket action, the Proteas women all-rounder Elise Marie Marks confident that the South African team can bounce back in the second T20 against England at Willamore Park in Benoni tonight at 6 p.m. England secured a 4-wicket victory in the first T20 on Sunday. Now, Elise Marie Marks had figures of 3 for 19 against England, and that stands as the best performance of her career to date, and she's determined to build on that success.
Obviously, it's good to perform every time you play for the country, and that's mainly what my focus is just to do my best whenever I get the chance to play, and that's really what I do. It's just focus on the next game and take the opportunity with both hands.
And finally, cycling. The cycling chiefs have requested that the World Anti-Doping Agency, WADA, take a position on the controversial but legal carbon monoxide breathing method used by top riders. Tour de France champion Tadej Pogačar and the two-time winner Jonas Vingegaard among those known to have practiced the method believed to affect the level of red blood cells in the bloodstream. The use of the potentially lethal gas by at least 3 teams was revealed during the Tour de France by the specialist cycling website Escape Collective. Amongst these teams are Israel's PT, Pogačar's UAE team and Vingegaard's Visma. The method is not yet illegal, but given repeated use can create an effect similar to altitude training, and WADA are likely to make some sort of ruling on its use. We'll keep a close eye on these and other stories on the Morning Brief Sport. I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Let's say good morning to Ndauleng once again. Ndauleng, in the financial services sector, African Bank has plans for an initial public offering, but you are saying that it's pushing back on those plans a little bit.
That's right, Tula. So they've delayed their planned listing on the JSE from next year to 2027. According to the CEO, Kennedy Bungani, the delay is to ensure the bank is fully prepared for a successful listing. Now, the South African Reserve Bank took a big chunk in African Bank in 2014 after it collapsed due to bad debt. Since then, the bank has been working to recover and prepare for a public listing. The lender has made progress in its preparations, including allowing employees employees to purchase a 10% stake and securing a 25% stake from the Government Employees Pension Fund as an anchor shareholder. This announcement comes alongside the group's results. African Bank delivered a slight increase in net profit from 521 million recorded last year to 523 million this year, which the lender considers satisfactory given their deliberate strategy to slow down growth in unsecured personal loans. Its customer base also expanded by 36% to 5.4 million, with personal banking customers increasing by 17%. Moving forward, the group plans to expand its home loan offering and onboard more partners in its alliance banking partnerships.
So, occasionally, Ntauling, when I don't know the company that you are telling me about, I will go and Google. But, sometimes I just like you telling me about it and me finding out who is Zeda and how are they delivering these record annual revenues.
So Zeda is the parent company of Avis and Budget Car Rentals. So they're the ones that are, leasing those cars to corporates, to the public sector. Interestingly, Zeda was owned by Barloworld, and it was unbundled a few years ago, and now it's a standalone company, and it's also just listed alone on the JSE. So they've recorded a great milestone. However, the record revenue of 10.5 billion rand failed to filter through to its bottom line, with earnings falling 18% rather. During the annual period, the group said its leasing business performed well, driven by strong demand from corporates, particularly the mining industry players in Zambia. Zeda's leasing business delivered double-digit revenue growth of 12.3% to 2.8 billion rands. However, the rental business faced challenges, including reduced margins in used car sales, shorter rental durations, and high interest rates. Company CEO Ramasela Kanda said the vehicle industry in South Africa is under pressure and normalizing after the previous year's super profits. This, of course, we've been seeing in the numbers that are coming out when you look at economic indicators from NAMSA, for example. Now, despite this, Zeda is pleased with its results and is well positioned for growth. Looking ahead, Kanda expressed optimism about the company's prospects, citing improved forward bookings and potential for longer rental durations. She also highlighted the company's growth opportunities in the mobility industry, including further diversification and expansion into new markets.
Yeah, you see, that's why it's better to get it from a human than from ChatGPT sometimes. Right? Lastly, Ntauling, a recap of the markets here at home and elsewhere in the world.
So starting in Asia this hour, markets pretty mixed as traders digest downbeat Chinese economic data, with industrial profits there falling in October. Looking at the indicators, the Japanese Nikkei is down over 1%. Surprisingly, Chinese stocks are in the green despite those lower industrial earnings. The Shanghai index is up 0.4%. Meanwhile, in Wall Street, futures are flat, sitting under the flat line. Traders will be digesting those Fed minutes we got, as well as the PCE print. They're looking ahead to that. Those numbers will be released on Friday. And then back at home, markets closing in positive territory yesterday. The All Share gained 0.62% by the close. The local unit, however, remaining steady. It's still on the back foot, trading at 18.17 to the dollar.
All right, thank you for that. That's Ntauling Lechela. She'll be back with one more update for you just before the resumption of trade for this Wednesday at the JSE.
South Africa, it's time to fly. FlySafair is giving away a whopping 1 million rand in flight vouchers to help your adventures come alive in 2025. Just think, you could be one of 10 lucky winners to fly away with 100,000 rand each in flight vouchers. Oh, the places you could go, the faces you could see. Simply enter at flysafair.co.za today. And who knows, this could be your 1 in a million opportunity. FlySafair, for the love of flying. T's and C's apply.
Ethical is what defines our business. I think OUTsurance does have integrity. They are not just there for the money, they're there to create a relationship. It's like a partner in business. It's the best thing we've ever done to switch over to OUTsurance. It's a no-brainer.
Switch to Business Outsurance today and you could get a massive 20% discount on your business insurance premium. SMS quote to 43328. That's quote to 43328 to switch and save today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
A loving partner shouldn't take away your choices. Your choice of clothes, your choice to wear makeup and cut your hair. A loving partner shouldn't choose your friends or choose how you spend your time. A loving partner shouldn't control who you speak to. If your partner is controlling your choices, it's abuse. But I found help at Tears. *134 *7355#. Visit tears.co.za.
The Northeast Provincial Legislature Portfolio Committee on Premier and Finance, led by Honorable Nathan Oliphant, will conduct public hearings on Division of Revenue Amendment Bill 2024 on the 28th November 2024 at Tsidilamolomo Tribal Hall in Tsidilamolomo near Mahikeng, Matwang Community Hall in Matwang near Potchefstroom, Carverdale Community Hall in Bloemhof, and Lehonyane Community Hall in Lehonyane near Brads. All hearings start at 10.
South Africa, it's time to fly. FlySafair is giving away a whopping 1 million rand in flight vouchers to help your adventures come alive in 2025. Just think, you could be one of 10 lucky winners to fly away with 100,000 rand each in flight vouchers. Oh, the places you could go, the faces you could see. Simply enter at flysafair.co.za today. And who knows, this could be your 1 in a million opportunity. FlySafair, for the love of flying. T's and C's apply.
Africa Update on SAFM.
Let's say good morning to Advocate Sipho Mantula. Good morning, Raz. So, as you and I speak, voting in Namibia has been underway for 44 minutes. Tell us what the election mood is at the moment.
Reflection morning, Tulas and Jamba Fika to the listeners. Indeed, Tulas, as you have said, that voting has begun in Namibia. It will close at 9 o'clock tonight. And when you look at the mood, Tulas, is that you have more women who will be on the queues today and more young people. As you look at the candidates also who are even contesting, you look at the 37-year-old university academic, Job Amapunda, who's even contesting with almost people who are above 60 years to 70 years. We look at Itula, the former SWAPO member of Independent Patriots for Change at the age of 67, Popular Democratic Movement, Fernani at the age of 47, also one of the biggest opposition in Parliament. Here to us again, we are looking at the National Assembly of 104 seats that are up for grabs in this current elections. And finally, I think their electoral system to us is very simple. They are looking for, if there's no candidate who will receive 50% in the first round, then you'll have a runoff. And hence, if there is no, in the history of that country, 34 years, they have never gone to the second round. So we are expecting the outcome also to be earlier, looking at the numbers of electorates, that at least by Friday, Saturday, we have an indication that who's the leading party in terms of presidential elections as well as the parliamentary.
Yeah, Sipho, the Mozambican democracy confuses me. So amidst all of these protests and these meetings that you and I have been talking about, there's still some outstanding business for that country's constitutional council to do later on in the year that has to do with the elections that happened in August.
Absolutely, Tulas. Actually, those elections were in October, remember, in October, yes. But the thing is that I think it's the interpretation of their law when they are raising that in terms of their law, there is no clear set of the lifeline, what you call the deadline, in terms of saying the process of validation and proclamation of the election results. Remember yesterday's meeting of the president, nobody has a minute of it or the text to say what was the meeting all about, but Constitutional Council indicating that it might be 23rd, 24th of next month to last, just on the eve of vacation or holidays, they will announce the result. I think it happened also in 2019 to last. Their election results was pronounced around the 23rd of December. And they're looking at Parliament and the inauguration to happen only January 2025. But we have a post-electoral violence mood there, but at the same time we have the breaking of the court. And judges have been threatened also by text and people intimidating the three judges who are sitting in this electoral petition.
So Malawi in the grips of an economic situation, particularly in as far as fuel is concerned, and people are asking, where is Peter Mutharika?
Absolutely, and they are saying stop being on the Facebook or sending messages of condemning government. Be on the streets with the people of Malawi. And as you know, Malawi has to go for the election 2025 to last. But what is happening here is a challenge, as you said, economic challenges, the poverty lines, the lack of fuel in most of the areas, and as well as the concern of corruption under President Lazarus Chakwera, and people calling both Peter Mutharika and George Chapondo to stand up and be with the community on the ground as they are raising the question around poverty, they are raising the issues around the bread to the table. How are they able to survive if there is this challenge in Malawi? And I think it's been under-reported to us, but there have been many protests going on in Malawi.
Tell me about what's happening in the DRC, some key developments there involving Rwanda and with the facilitation of Angola.
One will say probably they won't renege from this agreement that they have in fact key document to advance peace process, the DRC and Rwanda, mediated by Angola. This has been reported this week to us, and nobody knows what are the timelines in terms of this agreement. Will there be a committee to look at the ceasefire violations? Will be a committee to look at the trade relations, and as well as to look at the role of M23. As you know that Rwanda has been given this mandate by the AU, so it is interesting when you have a peace process, it's at least being developed in the DRC, because this is a part of the continent that has been going through the conflict since 1950.
Yeah, absolutely. And it touches so many other countries, any conflict that happens in the DRC. Lastly, Sipho, take us through your historical archives. 27 November 1929. What happened?
I thought this man was born on this day, and he passed on only in 2008. He was a trade unionist, he was a member of parliament, he was an MK activist. We're talking about Billy Naya, who will have been 95 years old, born in KwaZulu-Natal. Billy Naya, as you know, Thulas, was involved in the underground struggle of the ANC. He was also given the Luthuli, Albert Luthuli, a Silver National Order by President Mbeki 20 years ago as part of recognition. As I said, this is a great man, Thulas, who was involved in the liberation struggle, intelligence spaces, but also the trade union. That was Billy Naya, who was also at the Cape Town Congress of the ANC in 1965. Asante sana Thulas, as was still leading a conversation, SAFM.
Sipho has got files, man. Sipho has got files and archives for days, as the young people say. That's Sipho Mantula there with your Africa update for today.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Quite a heavy backlog on Pretoria's N4 this morning. This is the Emelatani Highway from Rousseau Street, just afterwards down through Watermeyer on towards the N1 highway. Some big delays whether you're trying to get to the highway or trying to get off the N4 and get into Hatfield. Solomon Mishlangu at Brett Street, just before the N1 highway. Lights are down there, so delays leaving Montana. Quite heavy as well on Solomon Mishlangu across the N1 highway down towards Waterkloof High School. That's quite an unusual backlog of traffic going on there. And of course, the N1 queuing up into the roadworks at the R21. Queues there from Atterbury and then Brockfontein to New Road stays heavy. Plenty of action on the N3 this morning. Got a crash northbound inside Galulis. That's problem number one. And then a crash at Marlborough Drive. That's number two problem. So from the cement factory all the way to Limborough Park, N3 jam-packed. The Mike 1 from Boyston through to Parktown to Oxford Road's heavy. And still with that collision on the N17 before Osborne Road. If you're coming out of Boxburg, Springs or Brackpan, N17 is quite heavily backed up this morning. Durban, the M4 Southern Freeway going inbound quite heavy through Umbulo and Congella. Still got delays and disruption as you come off that M4 onto the Esplanade. There are some roadworks there that continue basically till the end of this month. M7 going into Pinetown, very heavy up to St John's Avenue, and another breakdown at Cliffdale. This is on the Durban-bound carriageway, but interestingly, Pietermaritzburg at Cliffdale. Pietermaritzburg bound at Cliffdale looking heavy as well. Cape Town Marine Drive, pretty solid from Bayside to Racecourse Road down at Milnerton. More queues as you come through Milnerton down in towards the Pardon Island area. And Robert Sobukwe, here's an unusual queue. Robert Sobukwe from Belleville South heading up to Fortrek is quite heavy, and Faribik coming out of Cales River across the R300 onto a Strand Road, which becomes Fortrek Road into Belleville. That's quite a heavy one as well this morning. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Okay, let's get this recipe right. Switch to S3 at 7 p.m. Add 1 scoop of moshindiki. Check. Mix in Team Green Pepper and Team Red Tomato, featuring 2 chefs and 2 contestants. Check. Blend in a limited budget per team and a mystery ingredient to add a bit of spice. Check. Set the timer for 20 minutes and voila, there you have it. A fresh episode of Ready Steady Cook South Africa on S3 every weeknight at 7 p.m. Channel your inner Salt Bay with Ready Steady Cook SA, Monday to Friday at 7 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
Ask a man. Ask a man who's late for work after his car got hit by a truck, desperately waiting for help, if he's glad he saved 14 Rand on his insurance premium. Ask a man if buying the cheapest insurance was really worth it. And now ask yourself, when suddenly happens, who's there for you?
Auto in general. Car insurance with Auto SOS. Emergency accident detection and response. Visit autogen.co.za for a quote. Auto SOS is available to comprehensive car customers. A&G is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
2016 champs Kabuyelo Masandawana want to kick off their group stage campaign on a high note, while the Greens and Blacks of DRC want to illustrate how they made it to this level for the first time in history. This is the Total Energies CAF Champions League. Experience awesome vibes of African football. Mamelodi Sundowns FC versus AS Maniema Union this Tuesday, 26 November at 5:30 p.m. Live on SABC2 and also available everywhere for everyone. Always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
South Africa, it's time to fly. FlySafair is giving away a whopping 1 million Rand in flight vouchers to help your adventures come alive in 2025. Just think, you could be one of 10 lucky winners to fly away with 100,000 Rand each in flight vouchers. Oh, the places you could go, the faces you could see. Simply enter at flysafair.co.za today. And who knows, this could be your 1 in a million opportunity. FlySafair, for the love of flying. T's and C's apply.
Across South Africa, online and on radio. SAFM, let's talk.
5 minutes to 8, you are with the morning brief here on SAFM. As the class of 2024 prepares to conclude their academic journey with the traditional quote-unquote pens down events, anti-drug organization World Changers Candidates has warned them to remain vigilant during their celebrations. The organization has also urged parents to watch over their children as celebrations come with a myriad of risks, including substance abuse. The organization's Lucas Mahlachane, who is chairperson of World Changers Candidates, joins me now to take that conversation forward. Good morning and thank you for your time. Before we get into the risks that are associated with the so-called pens down parties, just help me understand, you as an organization understand the significance of the milestone, particularly for grade 12 pupils, that they would want to mark it one way or another. You appreciate that, right?
Yes, greetings to Thulasizwe and greetings to all SAFM listeners. Just to get that, and we're not actually discouraging the traditional way of people ending their matric, and that's not the point. The point that I think everyone is missing is that the pens down are no longer what they used to be. I mean, when you're talking about the pens down today, you're not only talking about the matriculants that are going into celebrate the end of the term. Pens down have become a phenomenon that is being used by young people to party, drink, and use drugs, and that's where it comes from. If you were to, the evidence happens with the Enyobeni Tavern. You can't tell me that the 13-year-old was a matriculant also celebrating that. So the pens down, and hence, for over the years, our focus has been actually cautioning young people. If you were to remember, before Enyobeni Tavern, we were running a campaign because it was during Youth Month in June and targeting the youth and young people, making them aware of the dangers of drugs and substance abuse. But this is what happened. Right now, we have changed the focus since the Enyobeni Tavern, since the Leondale High School, Dakar Party. We are focusing now on the nation and the parents. We are saying, be aware of what, because we have a record of a lot of incidents and accidents whereby parents saw their kids for the last time when they were bidding them goodbye to say, I'm going to celebrate the pens down. And so dangerous now that, I mean, we, as an organization in that field, we've got a record of a lot of incidents that are not even recorded anywhere and that are not even in the media, because we are exchanging information with people which are in the same space. So pens down are no longer what they used to be. And pens down, actually, for now, they're not only starting because this weekend is the one that is targeted as the pens down shutdown weekend. And you can imagine what does that mean when they say this weekend is our pens down shutdown. And they're starting from Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. That is the 29th, the 30th, and the 1st.
Is there a way, Mr. Matlachane, in which the significance of the milestone that these young people will have achieved can be marked safely? And what do we need to do as a society to get us to that point? And can some of these interventions be implemented almost immediately?
And when we're looking at what is happening now, I think we must also move with the time and understand our kids and understand the situation. I mean, it wouldn't make any harm. Actually, it was the tradition that was done before, whereby before they called them the pens down, it used to be called the farewell parties, which were organized by schools themselves, where there was the school governing body, the teachers, everybody was. The farewell parties were what is called today pens down. The pens down, the only difference is now, pens down has got everything to do with drugs, instead of like the farewell parties. I mean, over the years, in those ages, people used to have pens down as farewells. So why don't we go back to that kind of a tradition of, say, we'll have farewell parties? And then the farewell parties, they also can be organized in such a way that they inspire people that are coming from the lower grades to know that at the end, we're going to be thrown a farewell party, which can be organized by the school governing bodies, the SMT, and the parents as well. And how nice it is to have all that package. And it will also, like I'm saying, we can use it as an inspiration and as a motivation for the ones that are coming in. But today, when you're talking about the pens down, they're not even happening within the school environment. I can tell you now, drive around mainly the townships on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday and see what is going to happen. And as much as we always caution the nation, the parents, that we cannot stop from happening, because we have our page, our TikTok page at World Changers Candidate, and I wish people could just go there, just go on World Changers Candidate. You'll see how kids are commenting against against the campaign.
All right, thank you for that. That's Lucas Matlachane, who is the chairperson of the World Changers Candidates, bringing us to 8 a.m. Time now for a news update with Ann Musa. Essential cover from Outsurance pays out claims in cash, allowing you to choose your own panel beater. SMS CAR to 43187 now.
In our top stories, e-toll debt impacts on Gauteng's already limited resources, and UN chief welcomes Israel-Hezbollah ceasefire deal. Good morning. Gauteng Economic Development MEC Lebogang Mahile says the cost of servicing the e-toll debt has severely affected the province's budget. He says despite this, the budget is fairly healthy. Mahile delivered Gauteng's medium-term budget in the provincial legislature yesterday.
But also the budget is confirming that our finances are in a healthy state. One, despite the fact that we've got serious constraints. Some of those constraints have to do with the objective reality in the country, and hence we have lost money, about 6 billion for the overstatement of our population. We have lost about 15 billion from the equitable share. We are facing 20.1 billion debt of e-tolls. So those are some of the constraints that we are dealing with.
The Financial Sector Conduct Authority says it expects the cost of implementing the two-part retirement system to increase by 300 million rand annually. It has put the cost since the implementation of the system on September the 1st at 1.6 billion rand. The financial regulator says this includes additional staff to deal with queries, communication as well as new call centres. Deputy Commissioner Astrid Luden presented the financial regulator's report to Parliament's Standing Committee on Finance yesterday.
So the cost, based on the feedback we've received from the administrators of implementing the two-component system, has been 1.6 billion. Most of that has come from system changes, and all the large administrators had significant spend on their system changes. But you can also see additional costs, for example, around the member communication. There was a lot of communication and education that needed to go out.
9 suspects arrested in a kidnapping attempt in Ivory Park in Midrand, Johannesburg are expected to appear in court soon. Police say they killed the 10th suspect in the incident, which happened yesterday. They also seized 3 firearms and a vehicle. Various police agencies, as well as a private security company, acted on information on a plan to kidnap a businessman based in Benoni. Police spokesperson Amanda van Wyk.
Further investigation revealed that the 3 seized firearms and the suspect's vehicle are positively linked to other criminal cases. The deceased suspect had recently been released from prison.
A Western Cape gang member has started to serve his 25-year jail term for murder and possession of an illegal firearm. The Worcester Regional Court in the Boland sentenced 30-year-old Lyle Anthony yesterday. National Prosecuting Authorities Provincial Spokesperson Eric Ntabazalila says Anthony is a member of the Fast Guns gang. He says he fatally stabbed Peter Roderick in Riverview in January of 2017. Anthony was arrested shortly after the murder. And finally, the United Nations Secretary-General Antonio Guterres has welcomed the announcement of a ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah. He has expressed hope that the deal will end the violence, destruction and suffering of the people of both countries. U.S. President Joe Biden has confirmed the deal, which America and France brokered. Sharon Bryce-Peace reports from New York.
Guterres urged the parties to fully respect and swiftly implement all of the commitments made under the agreement and take immediate steps towards the full implementation of previous Security Council resolutions. He said the UN Special Coordinator for Lebanon and the UN Interim Force in Lebanon both stood ready to support the implementation of this agreement in line with their respective mandates. US President Joe Biden earlier said the deal would go into effect at 4 a.m. local time Wednesday morning and was designed to be a permanent cessation of hostilities that would see a phased withdrawal of Israeli troops from southern Lebanon.
Recapping the top story, Gauteng Economic Development MEC Lebogang Mahile says the cost of servicing the e-toll debt has severely affected the province's budget. He says despite this, the budget is fairly healthy. For SFM News, I am Anne Musa.
And that's the news for this hour. Theft, accident and 1 million rand liability cover, all covered by Outsurance Essential. Get a quote today, SMS CAR to 43187. 39-year-old Zagiti loves Outsurance Essential because it's low-cost insurance designed for older cars. For her 2011 VW Polo 1.6 Trendline, she only pays 525 Rand a month. With Outsurance Essential, you get up to 1 million Rand liability cover. That means if you cause an accident, the other car could be covered for up to 1 million Rand. Add even more value with the motor warranty, which covers you for mechanical or electrical breakdowns. Get saving with Outsurance Essential for unfinanced cars older than 5 years and valued at less than 130,000 Rand. SMS CAR to 43187. That's CAR to 43187 today. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Joburg N3 North is a mess. There's big delays coming from Germiston all the way through to Lindbro Park. So from Elan's interchange right through to Marlborough Drive, it is jam-packed. There is a closure now of the N3 North ramp onto the N12 and R24 East at Galilees. That's due to a crash. You can't come up from Germiston and then off-ramp out to the airport of Boksburg, Benoni. That's all closed down. So a lot of that traffic then goes up to Linksfield Road. So that's heavy. And then there's a crash up just before Marlborough Drive. So That's just adding pressure. So really, really heavy backlogs are getting up through that N3 this morning. The N1 between Bayers Nordia and Rivonia Road looking quite heavy. And the N17 coming in from Brackbound and Spring still queuing heavily passing Boxburg. Crash between Rondebolt and the Osborne Road exit. A lot of rain across the country. Durban getting some rain. 3 mils last night. More rain this morning. So drive carefully, please. Bit of traffic pressure again at Cliffdale on your way through to Pietermaritzburg. Cape Town also getting some rain. Not everywhere, but where it is, it's just wet and slippery road conditions. The N2 through the rain at Somerset West inbound is quite heavy, and there's an unusual queue running up the N1, up the R300 this morning. Normally a queue up through Brackenfell for a turn onto the N1 inbound, but this morning it's for a turn onto the N1 outbound. So just from sort of the Bottler Ray Road on the R300 going up onto the N1 outbound is very heavy, and the N1 inbound from Brackenfell, Kryfontein through to the R300 quite slow as well. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
A very good morning to you. In your SFM sports headlines, it's cricket action with the Proteas women determined to level their 3-match T20 series against England in Benoni tonight. And soccer action, we have the CAF Champions League results with the Orlando Pirates edging Belouizdad in Algiers. Details around 8:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
9 minutes after 8 on this Wednesday. Good morning, South Africa. This is the Morning Brief on SAFM, and I'm Thulasizwe Simelane. We've covered quite a bit of ground in the last 2 hours. Among the conversations we've been having, we've just been reflecting on the court case that took place yesterday and the arguments that were presented by both sides. The side representing the EFF and the ATM on the one hand, and then the side representing the National Assembly, its Speaker, the President of the Republic, and the ANC on the other hand, around the question of whether or not Parliament, that is the National Assembly, failed in its duty to hold the President accountable when it voted to not adopt an independent panel report, which would have paved way for an impeachment committee around the issue of Parapara. So we've been reflecting on that, and I see that a lot of people lining up to have a conversation about that. In the last few minutes, we had a conversation about the whole phenomenon of what's known as pans down events or parties that are raising quite a fair amount of concern among parents and even the Department of Basic Education, certainly in the provinces, in provinces like KwaZulu-Natal, for some of what then ends up transpiring in the process of young people marking what is granted a major milestone, especially when they finish matric, their last matric exam. But then we are told that these parties are usually associated with the abuse of alcohol, of the use of drug, and also risky sexual behaviors also taking place there. So we got an input on that and just weighing in on what the solutions could be. So those are some of the issues that are out in play. Do feel free to engage me on those and a whole lot more that may be on your mind this morning. The number to dial is 086 000 2032. I'll also take your WhatsApp voice notes. Send those to 061 410 4107. This is SAFM. We are leading the conversations that move us. The third hour of the Wednesday edition of the Morning Brief starts now.
The Malian team, Stade Malien, are on a big mission to triumph in their own backyard. But Stellies of Mzansi Africa want to open their Group B curtain with maximum points in Bamako. This is the Total Energies CAF Confederation Cup. Experience the delight of African football. Stade Malien de Bamako FC versus Stellenbosch FC on Wednesday, 27 November at 6 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Think festive season. Can you hear it? See it? Now imagine it purple. Yes, forget the tinsel because Click season is purple. It's that time of the year for the famous Clicks 3 for 2 purple sticker promotion. Mix and match any 3 festive gifts with a purple sticker and get the cheapest one free. Clicks. Feel good, pay less. Deals valid until 24 December or while stocks last. T's and C's apply.
South Africa, it's time to fly. FlySafair is giving away a whopping 1 million rand in flight vouchers to help your adventures come alive in 2025. Just think, you could be one of 10 lucky winners to fly away with 100,000 rand each in flight vouchers. Oh, the places you could go, the faces you could see. Simply enter at flysafair.co.za today. And who knows, this could be your 1 in a million opportunity. FlySafair, for the love of flying. T's and C's apply.
The Proteas are eager to play top-of-the-range cricket. However, their visitors England want to conquer the pitch battle at Willamore Park. Africa takes on Europe. What is summer without cricket? This is the second Women's T20 International Encounter, where summer cricket comes alive. South Africa versus England on Wednesday, 27 November at 6 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and reports on various SABC radio stations. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
Let's turn to this issue now. The Tsiamiso Trust is asking all former gold mine workers and their families to check if they are eligible to lodge a claim to be compensated for permanent lung damage from silicosis or work-related TB. The trust says one of the requirements is that the mine workers must have carried out risk work at one of the qualifying gold mines between March 1965 and December 2019. Let's speak to Dr. Munyadziwa Kwenda, who is the CEO of the Tsiamiso Trust. Good morning to you and thank you for your time this morning. It's not the first time that you and I talk about the need for people to come forward and check if they're eligible to claim. It says to me you are concerned at some level about the rate at which people are coming forward to see if they're eligible to claim. Am I correct in making that assumption?
Good morning to Thulasizwe and to your listeners. You are correct, not only concerned, but it is also part of our processes to always call upon claimants, that is potential claimants, and also those that have already lodged the claims, but they have changed their contact details to update their contact details with us. So it is an ongoing process, and this is informed by the fact that we need to ensure that by the time the trust closes in 2031, at least we have reached as many potential claimants as reasonably possible.
And just for those who don't remember, just take us back to the origins of the Tsiamiso Trust. It came from that settlement around that big silicosis case, didn't it?
Yes, it comes from the settlement agreement. It was an out-of-court settlement agreement which was made a court order where the mining companies and the claimants' attorneys agreed to settle, and that is a 5 billion settlement agreement that was reached way back in 2018, 2019.
And where are we with the trajectory of ensuring that that settlement reaches the right beneficiaries? How many people have come forward and how many claims have actually been settled?
Yeah, where we are sitting now, Thulasizwe and the listeners, is that we look at from the lodgement stage of our processes to the payment stage. So currently we have had 142,656 claims lodged, and then with payments that have been made now, we have made 20,000 a claim, just above 20,000 claims paid to the tune of 1.8 billion.
Sure, there's a bit of a gap there, Dr. Kwinda, between the claims lodged, 142,656, and just about 20,000 that have already been paid. What explains that gap?
Yeah, what explains the gap is the processes in between. Let me give you an example to Thulasizwe and the listeners. We have got claims for those mine workers who have passed away, and we also have got claims for mine workers who are living. For mine workers who are living, they go through a process called benefit medical examination. That is where they are examined by accredited practitioners, and the medical report is generated. That medical report goes to a panel of occupational medical practitioners called a medical certification panel. And this is where it starts to become, that is where you start to see the difference coming in. And the reason being that with our latest statistics now is that out of all the cases that have been to the medical certification panel after going through the benefit medical examination, only 30% becomes medically eligible, meaning out of 10, 3 will have a qualifying disease, meaning 7 do not have a qualifying disease. One other area, Thulasizwe and the listeners, that we are dealing with, and I'm happy that we are finding solution, is that most of our deceased claims have not been paid. The reason being that the trust deed made requirements for an official death certificate as proof, and you should have silicosis or TB stated in an official death certificate as the primary cause of death. But you and I know that official death certificates natural causes. So we are finding a way now. We are in the process of amending the trust deed to include what is called the death notification form. That is completed by the medical practitioners. That is the one that contains the conditions that kills the patient.
So let's do a bit of public service, you and I then, Doc, in the time that remains in our conversation. How do we help you expedite and help people access you? Because I see that you're also concerned about the ability to get a hold of some of your claimants, particularly in the Eastern Cape. How do people get a hold of you? One, to lodge claims, but also to update you about their changed details.
Yes, we do have a phone call center, which is 080 100 0240. 080 100 0240. Or claimants, petitioner claim can also send a please call me to this number, 072 557 8077. 072 557 8077. They can also visit their nearest TEBA office, and also they can also send a WhatsApp, chat on WhatsApp on 0027 78504 9004. And they can also send us a message on Facebook at Silicosis Settlement, and also an email at info@siamisotrust.com. Those are our communication channels through which they can reach us.
All right, we wish you all of the best. That's Dr. Munyadziwa Kwinda, who is the CEO of the Siamiso Trust. So important details there. If this affects you, do act on that information. The lodgement of claims is open for the Siamiso Trust.
Weeknights on S3 are anything but ordinary. BBC Primetime brings you the best of British television from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. With crime boss the Dean behind bars, the outlaws are moving on with their lives until one of their own returns with a deadly secret, hurling them back into mortal danger. Outlaws Season 3, Fridays at 9 p.m. Then, 3 fishing fanatics embark on the ultimate extreme fishing trip to attempt to catch some of the most elusive, hard-to-catch fish across the globe. Fishing Impossible, Fridays at 10 p.m. Channel your best entertainment with BBC Primetime, only on S3. Open up.
Assurance, they understand my business. They are so good in terms of communication, which gives me confidence. It's a good decision that I've made to move to assurance. I'm a winner. I want to be with the winners.
Switch to Business Outsurance today and you could get a massive 20% discount on your business insurance premium. SMS quote to 43328. That's quote to 43328 to switch and save today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
South Africa, it's time to fly. FlySafair is giving away a whopping 1 million rand in flight vouchers to help your adventures come alive in 2025. Just think, you could be one of 10 lucky winners to fly away with 100,000 rand each in flight vouchers. Oh, the places you could go, the faces you could see. Simply enter at flysafair.co.za today. And who knows, this could be your 1 in a million opportunity. FlySafair, for the love of flying. T's and C's apply.
The Malian team, Stade Malien, are on a big mission to triumph in their own backyard. But Stellies of Mzansi Africa want to open their Group E curtain with maximum points in Bamako. This is the Total Energies CAF Confederation Cup. Experience the delight of African football. Stade Malien de Bamako FC versus Stellenbosch FC on Wednesday, 27 November at 6 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
SAFM. Prime time all day long.
23 minutes after 8, South African Breweries SAB has launched an emotive program to drive awareness on the dangers of drinking and driving. SAB says its Drive Sharp campaign exists to urge South Africans to reconsider their choices and embrace safe, responsible drinking behaviors. The company has used real stories from families whose lives were forever altered by driving incidents to send its message. For more on this, I'm joined on the line by Zoleka Lisa, who is Vice President Corporate Affairs at South African Breweries. Before we get into the stories that you use for this campaign, I've got to start here. Someone listening out there may think that why is this a genuine campaign by you, the sellers of alcohol, using real life stories to highlight these issues? Why is it a genuine campaign as opposed to a page out of your ESG or PR playbook?
Good morning to us and morning to your listeners. So for us, this is core to how we operate. Our purpose is to propel South Africa forward using the unique power of beer, and responsibility is at the core of that. So talking and engaging on South Africans being safe and sharp on the road is key to our business and just broader social agenda.
All right, so tell us about then your use of real stories of people affected by driving, having had one too many drinks. How does the campaign unfold, and what are you seeking to achieve with it?
Fantastic. Last year alone, stats recorded that just under 42,000 drink driving incidents took place on South African roads. So we've got this Drive Sharp program, which is a pillar of our broader South Africa Be Sharp program, and that's how we drive responsibility within the company. So that's the vehicle we use to champion safer roads. So we've launched this campaign where we are highlighting the stories of two families, the Olifants and the Samsons, who respectively lost their loved ones. With regards to the Olifants, it's a 21-year-old who lost his life due to drunk driving, and the Samsons is a father figure who was also a law enforcement officer. And what we are telling South Africans through these stories is that there's one key message, and that's don't drink and drive this festive season, as there are serious legal, social, and long-lasting implications for the families who are impacted by drink driving.
Are you getting involved on the supply side of the issue, where obviously you do want to make sales of the product that you sell, but are you getting involved on the supply side that sort of preempts the possibility of drunk driving? So I don't know if you understand my question. Is there a way that you can, over and above raising awareness, can be involved on the side that makes it difficult for a person who has had one or two drinks or one or two more drinks than they should have to get in a car and drive?
Good question, Thulas. I think SAB Shop program is quite comprehensive, and there are a number of levers that we work with our partners in terms of driving just broader responsibility. Firstly, on the supply side, if I could address that, one of the things we've focused on as a company is innovating and driving non-alcoholic alternatives. So that's quite important, is to also give our consumers broad choices to make good decisions and have options. Secondly, we work with our retailers in terms of responsible beverage service. So when to know when not to serve one too many, when to advise our consumers to take ride sharing and the like. So those are some of the programs we're rolling out. But we also have a very strong partnership with law enforcement with our solution that's called Alcohol Evidence Centers, where we're equipping law enforcement with the tools that they need to also arrest perpetrators of drunk driving, so that the message is also quite clear to consumers that there is a consequence to drink driving.
So two issues of alcohol in society have been playing out on this show in the last few days. Let's start with the one being discussed today, the so-called pens down parties, where the concern is the abuse of alcohol. So naturally, questions of people who are underage having access to alcohol. Do you have campaigns that target that specifically?
We do, we work very closely with the liquor boards across the country. And first and foremost, our products are not meant to be consumed by those who are under the age. And we work closely with the retailers to train them, to audit them, to ensure there's both positive and consequences for them are not displaying the right behavior. So there are interventions at play. And as we lead up to the festive season, we do gear up on those initiatives.
And then the other one had to do with, a few days ago, we were talking about the availability and supply of beer and the packaging thereof. And we were discussing, and almost in light-hearted manner from time to time, what is known as ingudu and the sizes of those, quarts that are sold with beer. What's the rationale and the B-sharp thinking around that, around the packaging and the sizes of some of those quarts, which some people have remarked that, they're quite big, and you will see a person seeking to down it all by themselves?
I think it's a quite complex conversation around our packaging. Obviously, we ensure when we innovate, we are meeting consumer needs. But I think I'd like to focus on the way we engage with our consumers. We are really, really driving a lot of conversation and intervention around behavior of how to consume our products. That's why I was speaking to the non-alcohol alternatives, our interventions in places of consumption, and we are making it quite tangible for consumers to make different choices. So there's a lot of initiatives we've got at play in terms of engaging right in the taverns with our consumers, sharing occasions, working with the bar staff who serve the product and giving them tips to share with consumers. Eating before you drink. There's a lot of campaigns we're driving around how to consume. So I think there are a number of interventions just outside of talking about packaging. I think consumers have made choices, and we are really doing our part in engaging them on how to make those choices.
All right, thank you for your time this morning. That's Zoleka Lisa, who is Vice President Corporate Affairs at South African Breweries. Let's check in now with Ann Musa with the latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, the South African Military Health Service says it will allow medical students sent to Cuba to complete their training. This after the SANDF decided to cancel the Cuban medical training program. Gauteng Economic Development MEC Lebogang Mahile says the cost of servicing the e-toll debt has severely affected the province's budget. He says, however, despite this, the budget is fairly healthy. And Vice President of Namibia and the country's governing party SWAPO's presidential candidate Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah has expressed confidence that a party will win today's elections. I'll have details on these and other stories at 9.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Major delays and disruption coming out of the Vaal area on your way to Joburg. A big truck fire. This fire is well lit this morning on the 59. Looks like the road is closed between Redan and Meyerton, so expect some delays. If you don't fancy it, just get on the R82, go up through Walkerville or a cut back on Johan LaRue into Meyerton if you need the 59. Just sort of keep yourself moving and avoid the delays and the detours. N3 is heavy this morning coming out of Elan to interchange in Germiston all the way through, crashing at Galulis and then a crash at Marlborough Drive, jam-packed all the way through from Germiston deep up into Limbro Park territory. A crash the other side of town, N1 north at Malabongwe, delays from Bayers Nordia, and the N17 between Boksburg and Wadeville on your way through to Joburg. Still backed up after an earlier collision seen there as well. Durban, there is some rain about this morning, so a couple of bumps and shunts noticeable. Do take it nice and easy. Rain extending from Durban down through the Eastern Cape, so particularly heavy around parts of the Eastern Cape, and rain into Cape Town as well. Day 3 of wet weather conditions in the Cape Town area. Everything on a bit of a slow go as a result of that. The standout queue is the N1 this morning. Big backlogs from Plattercliff Road all the way through towards the city centre area. Marine Drive, quite heavy, just sort of after Milnerton though. You'll sit into the Pardon Island area, and the N7 jamming from Franz Conradi in Goodwood up towards a busy Bosmansdown off-ramp. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Good morning to you once again, Zai. So as far as the Proteas women are concerned, the show goes from East London to Benoni.
The show must go on.
The show must go on.
No more Miss Nice Team tonight. Let me tell you, the Proteas women, they want to send England packing. So, yeah, we can look forward to a tough encounter. That's right. Benoni tonight, 6 p.m. is when the first ball will be bowled. Despite standout performances from seamers like Elise Marie Marks and Nadine de Klerk, the Proteas women admitted they need to tighten up their bowling and avoid losing wickets in clusters. Proteas woman all-rounder Elise Marie Marks eager to deliver another strong performance in the second clash.
Yeah, I'll take a lot of confidence from that performance. Again, like I said, took a lot of confidence and some work into my skills when I was at home from the World Cup. Try to always get better, always develop some skill. So yeah, take a lot of confidence from the performance that I delivered.
Soccer action. Orlando Pirates made a triumphant return to the CAF Champions League group stage. 2-1 was their win over CR Belouizdad in Algiers. The win sees Pirates tied with Al Ahly at the top of Group C, trailing only on goal difference. Now, AS Manyema Union coach Papi Kimoto says playing with little or no pressure in the CAF Champions League makes them a dark horse. He was speaking after the DR Congo outfit held Mamelodi Sundowns to a goalless draw at Loftus Stadium in their first ever fixture in the group stage of the continental competition. Kimoto praising his players.
I'm satisfied with the performance of the team. The players suffer together, they play together, and we have the opportunity now that we're gonna play 2 games at home. We try to if we win the 2 games, we might be first in the group. As I say, we have nothing to lose. We playing without pressure, and today the player gave it all.
In the meantime, Al Ahly had a 4-2 victory over Stade Abidjan in their Champions League Group C match, and it all happened at the Cairo International Stadium last night. And finally, the Kaizer Chiefs left-footed centre-back Rishwan Dortley is enjoying his rise in the Bafana Bafana setup, becoming a regular in a star-studded team that continues to achieve. Ever since head coach Hugo Bruges called him up to the senior national team in September, Dortley has become a regular, impressing during the COSAFA Cup in July. The former Cape Town Spurs defender balances Bafana's defence and initiative's offensive, and that's the moves from the back. This has led to his partnering with centre-backs like Siyabonga Ngezana, Grant Kikana, and most recently Motobi Mvala. Dortley points out the important factors of a centre-back partnership.
I think it's just for you to know how the player plays, to know the player next to you. I wouldn't say on a personal level as well, but also in the playing style, how he does things and how both of you can help each other. And I think if you can learn the player you're playing with better on the field while in training, you will you will play better because you'll know you will do certain things a certain way and you have to do it like that. But it hasn't been difficult. Like I've said before, at club level, the coaches involve everyone in training. There's one objective, there's one goal, and it has been quite easy adapting to play with all those three people.
And that's how we wrap up the Morning Brief Sport. There'll be more around 12:30 with John Gerika. I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Good morning to you once again, Dowling. So you're telling us that morale in the construction sector remains high, remains steady in quarter four.
That's right, Thulas. Now, the local building sector is showing some signs of life, but challenges, of course, still remain. This is according to the FNB BER Building Confidence Index, which held steady at 40 points in the fourth quarter of the year, with 60% of respondents dissatisfied with current business conditions. Now, this index measures morale levels across the construction sector, from hardware retailers to contractors. Zooming in on the print, main contractors are expecting a surge in activity, with confidence levels reaching their highest point in a decade. Residential building activity partially recovered in the fourth quarter, and non-residential activity continued to increase. But weak order books suggest that further growth could be limited. Contractors are still concerned about the short-term prospects for the sector, and the negative impact of the construction mafia remains a concern. Subcontractors are facing tough times, with their confidence plummeting due to a sharp decline in demand for residential solar installations following the end of load shedding. Building material manufacturers, in the meantime, saw a slight uptick in confidence, but it remains low. Hardware retailers, in the meantime, reported strong sales, with the sales volume index reaching its highest level in 3 years. So a mixed bag when it comes to sentiment in the industry, but there does seem to be light at the end of the tunnel, with FNB senior economist Siphamandla Mkhwanazi saying that the sector is showing signs of resilience and will fare better moving forward as economic prospects improve.
So in M&A activity, or shall we say stalled M&A activity, yes, it seems Vodacom and Massive really want to do this deal. The Competition Appeal Court seems to be their next door where they'll be knocking.
Yes, so Vodacom and Remgro's fiber business, Massive, not backing down. They formally lodged a notice to appeal the Competition Tribunal's decision to block their merger. The tribunal announced this decision in October, and it's almost a month later, and the regulator still hasn't released the report with the reasons on the move, on why it blocked that deal. So the proposed tie-up would have seen Vodacom take a 30% stake in Massive, with the option to increase it to 40. The deal is valued at around 13 billion rands. Vodacom CEO Shamil Chusib described the tribunal's decision as a travesty for South Africa, citing the potential investment of 14 to 17 billion rand in the fiber industry. Peter Ace, chairman of Massive, also expressed disappointment, saying the decision made no sense. Now, the appeal will be supplemented once the tribunal's reasons for blocking the transaction are made public. Vodacom and Remgro remain in discussions regarding the transaction terms. A decision to block the merger was a shock to markets, considering both companies abided by the Compcom's recommendations. The deal was also supported by communications regulator ICASA, the Department of Trade and Industry and Competition, and even some of Vodacom's rivals. Now, the appeal is expected to be heard by the Competition Appeal Court. The outcome will have significant implications for the local fiber industry, which of course is in need of investment to expand infrastructure.
Man, the way I enjoyed competition law in law school. Lastly, and Dowling, what kind of a Wednesday are we looking at in as far as the markets are concerned?
So the JSE poised to start the day in the green, extending yesterday's gains. In terms of company news, markets will be waking up to a trading update from packaging group Nampak and an update from Anglo American. The miner is making progress in selling its Amplat stake as it moves ahead with its restructuring plan that'll see it focus more on copper, iron ore, and crop nutrients. So traders will be digesting that at the open. Moving over to currency action, the rand pulling back as the dollar strengthens following Trump's tariff threats. It's trading at 18.17 to the greenback. And then in Wall Street, futures just below the flat line. Traders awaiting the PCE data that's rather the Fed's preferred inflation measure. So those numbers out on Friday and markets awaiting that print. And then over in Asia, markets pretty mixed with most stocks trading slightly higher. This despite disappointing economic data we got out from China this morning.
All right, thank you for that. Have a great day. That's Ntauling Lechela there. She's been watching business, the economy, as well as the markets for you over the last 3 hours here on The Morning Brief.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
At 18 minutes to 9, let's focus on this now. Ahead of World AIDS Day, a new report by UNAIDS shows that the world can meet the agreed goal of ending AIDS as a public health threat by 2030. The report says, however, that this can only be achieved if leaders protect the human rights of everyone living with and at risk of HIV. UNAIDS says in many parts of the world, criminalization and stigmatization of marginalized communities is obstructing access to life-saving HIV services. Let's speak to Zinat Abdul, who is the Communication and Advocacy Officer at UNAIDS South Africa. Good morning to you, Zinat. I've got to thank you for your time. I want to start with a quote that you say as UNAIDS: to protect everyone's health, we need to protect everyone's rights. Draw the linkages for us between the goal of ending AIDS, HIV/AIDS as a public health situation of concern and protecting human rights.
Thank you very much. Good morning to Thulasizwe, and really appreciate the opportunity to be on the program this morning and to communicate this a very important message that in order for us, as you've said, to end AIDS as a public health threat by 2030, we need to protect human rights. And you're asking me to draw the link between human rights and ending AIDS as a public health threat. And our report that was launched yesterday, which says Take the Rights Path, merely says protecting human rights removes barriers to accessing HIV prevention, treatment, and care services. In other words, that would uphold the human rights of people, all people living with HIV, and everyone included. We actually provide them with the opportunity to access healthcare, education. We help them to eliminate poverty and improve basically their socioeconomic standing. So when we protect human rights, we do remove barriers to accessing health services, and rights-based approaches ensure that marginalized populations such as the LGBTQ plus communities, sex workers, people who use drugs are not excluded from vital healthcare services. Now, in South Africa, efforts to strengthen human rights protections like addressing gender-based violence and ending stigma, this helps to create an environment where people feel safe to access services. And this is particularly critical for adolescents and young women who experience intersecting vulnerabilities. And we know this as we observing the 16 days of activism, where the focus is on women and children, that, they are part of the vulnerable or key population that we often refer to. And when we uphold people's human rights, we actually enhance their access to healthcare and education services.
How difficult of a conversation is it, Zinat, given the different styles of governance around the world, different levels of conservatism in societies, and how those societies then grapple with issues? So, for instance, you talk about criminalization, and one imagines that it's about criminalization of, for example, sexual orientation of people. How difficult then is that conversation to draw the link for leaders in various countries with those factors at play between access to HIV/AIDS health services and respect for human rights?
Well, South Africa is a shining example. We come from an era of AIDS denialism, and we saw a concerted effort to actually, in a movement, to ensure that people living with HIV actually have access to ARVs or antiretroviral treatment. And we're seeing that today that those efforts have indeed paid off. So yes, and we also see that South Africa has has decriminalized same-sex relationships. But of course, we still got the criminalization of sex work. We still got the criminalization of drug use. But we have seen that with political will, with the network and the powerful force of civil society, that when decriminalization occurs and becomes a law and policy, we see that people then have a greater access to healthcare services. We see the life expectancy of people living with HIV improving. We see a dismantling of stigma. And yes, while that still remains pervasive in our country, there are great strides being made to ensure that we can remove these barriers to healthcare. So decriminalization works in the sense that it removes barriers to accessing healthcare services for all.
Yeah, and just to be clear, you cited the examples of decriminalization of sex work, and then you mentioned decriminalization of drugs. You are specifically talking about the decriminalization of sex work, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And of course, people, who inject drugs are also stigmatized,
Yes.
so they then they do not access healthcare services. So
Yeah.
we're not saying, of course, we are saying that, removing stigma, removing structural barriers ensures that people have access to healthcare services, which is what we need. And everybody deserves access to healthcare services. That is human rights.
Sure. So if the goal is to end HIV/AIDS as a public health threat, and I believe it's by 2030, how close are we to that, given that from your report, among what you cite, is 630,000 people died of AIDS-related illnesses, and in 28 countries, you are concerned that the number of new HIV infections is on the rise?
Indeed. Look, I think we can end AIDS as a public health threat by 2030. There is progress that is being made, but we do understand that it takes great political will in order to do that. And as I've said earlier, South Africa has made great strides in the response to HIV, but we do have some challenges that persist and remain, and it is possible. When we talk about law enforcement, we talk about policies, we talk about decriminalization, we talk about removing structural and societal barriers, improving the socioeconomic standings of people living with HIV, and we can end AIDS as a public health threat by 2030 with great political will from leadership across the world, and of course with the robust network that we have also created and we are surrounded by.
Zinat Abdul, I've got to thank you for your time this morning. She is the Communication and Advocacy Officer at UNAIDS South Africa.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
A reminder of this truck fire incident. A truck well lit this morning coming out of Vereeniging up towards Joburg. So between Vereeniging and Meyerton, there's some big pressure there. In fact, the road looks like it's closed with a diversion off at Redan. So if you want to avoid that, leave Vereeniging, hop on the R82, cut back at Walkerville to the R59 at Meyerton, or just keep going all the way up through Kibler Park and up through towards Joburg this morning on the R82. The R59 closed with queuing pressure into that seat. The N3 stays fairly busy between Germiston and around about Modderfontein Road, including a crash on the ramp to the N12 East. That ramp has reopened, but the traffic's still very, very busy. Collision other side of town, N1 North at Malabongwe Drive. So from Bayers Nordia, traffic on the way towards Four Ways remains heavy. N1 easing, but still busy out of Pretoria, Rigel Avenue, down into the work zone that is the R21 highway. Looking okay between Durban and Pietermaritzburg. A little bit of traffic around Key Ridge, but Key Ridge, Cliffdale, but nothing too desperate. But we would say please check before you travel. You've got likely issues at Cliffdale all day long. You've got likely issues between Pietermaritzburg and Umlas Road. We saw yesterday a day of big truck crashes and some overrunning blasting and broken down vehicles. Of course, when they break down in the concrete barriered off roadwork section, you've got nowhere for them to pull off. Same with crashes. You've got to get the recovery teams through the construction zone, through the traffic, and then sort of hitch them up and pull them up the road. So just check before you travel. If you went through there last night, it was about 2-hour delay from Marion Hill Plaza through to Cliffdale, and you would have wished you'd checked before you travelled then. Cape Town, bit of rain about this morning, so everything stays on a go slow, particularly Bosmansdam Road out of Edgemead and Bortasak across towards Summer Greens, and the N7, that's heavy. The N7 North up to Bosmansdam Road, very slow. And still a lot of traffic on Route 1 this morning from N1 City all the way through to the elevated freeway. Busy enough to be pushing Nelson Mandela Boulevard halfway back towards sort of Hospital Bend. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Weeknights on S3 are anything but ordinary. BBC Primetime brings you the best of British television from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Love a good murder mystery? Then Death in Paradise Season 3 will keep you entertained with a series of impossible murders on the beautiful Caribbean island of St. Marie. Monday to Wednesday at 9 p.m. Channel your inner vroom with Top Gear Season 25 and 26, Monday to Wednesday at 10 p.m. Channel your best entertainment with BBC Primetime only on S3. Open up.
South Africa, it's time to fly. FlySafair is giving away a whopping 1 million rand in flight vouchers to help your adventures come alive in 2025. Just think, you could be one of 10 lucky winners to fly away with 100,000 rand each in flight vouchers. Oh, the places you could go, the faces you could see. Simply enter at flysafair.co.za today. And who knows, this could be your 1 in a million opportunity. FlySafair, for the love of flying. T's and C's apply.
It's Black Friday. You're ready to score that brand new shiny smart TV you've had your eyes on. The deals are insane. 4K resolution, endless apps, the works. You rush to the store, grab your dream TV, and then wham! Wait, what's this? A TV license? Oh no, you didn't pay for it. Now you're stuck with possible penalties and no TV. Avoid the heartache and pay your TV license before you rush off to your new love this Black Friday. It's quick, easy, and way cheaper than penalties. Pay your TV license today at tvlic.co.za. Act now and enjoy your new TV without any worries.
Call Thulasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
All right, let's make a deal. Let's take as many of the calls and WhatsApp voice notes as we can, because we've simply not had much time for that this morning. So if I don't engage you as much as I ordinarily would, it's not because I'm not interested in what you have to say. I'm trying to get as many views as possible. So let's do exactly that. Jawud in Durban, good morning. You want to talk about the issue that came up yesterday around the claim that there's a certain sense of radicalizing young Muslims in South Africa.
Yes, Thulasizwe. Firstly, greetings to you, Thulasizwe, the production team and listeners of SAFM. I am responding to the allegation of Muslims receiving training to become suicide bombers.
Yes,
firstly, I want to say that the unsubstantiated, claims are an attempt to polarize our existence in South Africa as Muslims, following the Islamic faith. Firstly, I want to commend you, Thulasizwe, for setting the record straight by trying to explain to him the difference between radicalism and Islam. What this character must understand is that ISIS was an organ funded by the West to create a divide and rule between Muslims. Their activities in the war in Syria and Afghanistan was funded by the West. Islam does not support any form of radicalism,
right,
which kills women, children, and the elderly.
All right. Jawud, thank you.
Be from a Muslim or a non-Muslim.
All right.
Our injunction in Islam is that we only fight the combatants of war.
All right. Thank you for that.
I also want to take this opportunity as a Muslim to thank our government for being the first and only government in the world to hold the Israeli government to the International
All right,
Court
Jawud,
of Justice
I've heard you.
to take your warrant.
Thank you for your call this morning. That's Jawud in Durban there. Let me speak to Putana in Rosebank. Good morning to you, Putana. EFF and Parapara on your mind this morning.
Good morning, my brother. You know, I'm so disappointed with some of the judges there. They're so casual about this. So all of a sudden, they don't think that the Constitution is supreme law. They're concerned about the voters. The voters have spoken. They're concerned about the implication of this. Why can't they tell us whether this is lawful or not? What the parliamentarians have done, even the Ramaphosa.
In fairness, Putana,
Putana,
the whole idea there is that the justices will engage in a bit of a debate, in chiseling out, what the ideas are and the arguments are. They will put propositions, and I suspect that sometimes it's not even propositions that they believe in.
They must show seriousness, like one judge or two judges. They must show seriousness that they want to tackle these things. They must not be so casual. There's a serious problem. A person having a money under mattress at the status of the president who's supposed to know how to report this thing, choose not to do that. Even the parliamentary, they play as gangsters, protecting him.
Gotcha. Putana, thank you for your call this morning. Putana in Rosebank. Let me play one or two voice notes that have come through. I want to take this one. It has to do with the issue of the pens down parties that we've been talking about and the difficulties that arise from time to time at those parties.
The talk discussing all these programs they're doing. There's one program. There's only one program. There's always been one program. It's the parent. If the parent says you're not going out, you're staying at home. You stay at home. These days, these useless parents, they just listen to the children. If you don't enforce discipline, nothing will change.
Yeah, tough words there from that caller. Here's another one, also on the same theme of the pens down parties.
Tulas, this is Bag in Cape Town. I hear the gentleman speaking about let's go back to that old type of pens down, events that we used to have immediately after examinations. Because the pens down of today, unfortunately, is marked by or is characterized with a lot of liquor and drugs and everything. But we're forgetting to remember that, these kids, they are celebrating in a way that they find fit or rather suitable for them to celebrate, because throughout the year, they've been drinking, they've been using all sorts of illicit drugs. Sure. So I really do not know how can we keep, or how shall we rather keep this, shall I call it pandemic? I don't know, but I welcome the call. This is Baki in Cape Town.
All right, Baki, thank you for that. It's distressing. And I suppose then it talks to the issue of availability of alcohol, particularly for young people, underage drinking and the likes. And it's a conversation that did come up in the last few days here on the show about how do we make sure that we protect young people from exposure and early exposure to alcohol, which they can be exposed to the abuse thereof, because we're always making that distinction between use of alcohol and abuse of alcohol. That's how we come to the end of today's edition of the Morning Brief. Thank you for listening and for engaging. The Talking Point with Kathy Motlatlana is up next here on SAFM after the news. Essential cover from Outsurance pays out claims in cash, allowing you to choose your own panel beater. SMS CAR to 43187 now.
In our top stories, medical students in Cuba allowed to complete training, and ETOL did impacts on Gauteng's already limited resources. Good morning. The South African Military Health Service says it will allow medical students that it has sent to Cuba to complete their training. This after the South African National Defence Force decided to cancel the Cuban medical training program, describing it as wasteful expenditure. SANDF spokesperson Spiwe Dlamini.
The instruction to review the relationship of training students in Cuba was issued by the previous minister for us to review the training, and that has been subsequently done. There were various options that were looked into by the program, and indeed one of the issues was that the students needed a bridging course when they came back because of language issues and probably some of the courses that they were doing. But I think, in my view, foreign students in general would have to go through a SAQA process and a bridging course. It's not only the Cuban-trained doctors that do that.
Gauteng Economic Development MEC Lebogang Mahile says the cost of servicing the e-toll debt has severely affected the province's budget. He says despite this, the budget is fairly healthy. Mahile delivered Gauteng's medium-term budget in the provincial legislature yesterday.
But also the budget is confirming that our finances are in a healthy state. One, despite the fact that we've got serious constraints. Some of those constraints have to do with the objective reality in the country, and hence we have lost money, about 6 billion for the overstatement of our population. We have lost about 15 billion from the equitable share. We are facing 20.1 billion debt of e-tolls. So those are some of the constraints that we are dealing with.
Vice President of Namibia and the country's governing party SWAPO's presidential candidate Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah has expressed confidence that a party will win today's elections. She says the fact that people have shown interest in the polls is a good sign for democracy. Speaking to SABC before casting a vote in the capital Windhoek, she urged all those who have registered to exercise their right to vote.
I saw people responding well, so I'm just really expecting good results, and then for us to move forward in advancing what we have committed to the people of Namibia.
And finally, police in Brazil have filed a report formally accusing former President Jair Bolsonaro of actively participating in a coup plot. The report says he wanted to stay in power following his election defeat in 2022. It also alleges that he was fully aware of elite soldiers' plan to assassinate the then newly elected president, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, his vice president and a Supreme Court judge. Bolsonaro has denied committing any crime.
No one is going to stage a coup with a retired general and half a dozen officers. What they're saying is absurd. There's never been any talk of a coup from my side.
And finally, the Cape Town Cruise Terminal has been named as the best in Africa during the prestigious World Cruise Awards in Madeira, Portugal. The awards celebrate outstanding achievements in the global cruise industry. Other African ports that were also nominated in the category, they included Durban's KwaZulu Cruise Terminal, Kenya's Mombasa Cruise Terminal, Egypt's Sharm el-Sheikh Seaport, and Tanzania's ports of Dar es Salaam and Zanzibar. This is Cape Town Cruise Terminal's fourth consecutive win. Recapping the top story, the South African Military Health Service says it will allow medical students that it has sent to Cuba to complete their training after the SANDF decided to cancel the Cuban medical training program. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
And that's the news for this hour. Theft, accident and 1 million rand liability cover, all covered by our Insurance Essential. Get a code today. SMS card to 43187.
It's heating up on My Design Rules, South Africa's hottest interior design reality show, this Sunday evening at 7 on S3. Watch as our design duos get cooking on their kitchen spaces. It's the heart of the home, but with the stress of deadline hanging over their heads, it's causing nothing but high blood pressure. Channel your interior designer with My Design Rules, Sunday evenings at 7 only on S3.
Mzansi, harmful behaviors that lead to gender-based violence and femicide must be unlearned and replaced with positive and respectful actions. Positive actions begin at home with little things: how we speak, how we act, and how we handle conflict. It's about understanding that respect is a non-negotiable right for everyone. We can break the cycle of gender-based violence and femicide, and we must start now. I am Thulasizwe Simelane, Minister in the Presidency for Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities. I encourage every South African to join in the fight to end gender-based violence beyond the 16 Days of Activism campaign. A gender-based violence and femicide-free South Africa is possible.
The cost of living crisis is real. Here's what one OUTsurance client did about it.
I'm Amy. I'm 26 from Kenilworth. When I got my 2022 Ford EcoSport, the immediate thought was to buy an OUTsurance, and I pay only 819 Rand per month. No insurers were able to beat or match the premium that I'm currently paying.
Want a car insurance premium that will blow your mind? SMS out to 30754 now. That's out to 30754. OUTsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
After a one-all draw in 2019, the Reggae Girls and Banyana Banyana are back on the battleground to test each other's strengths. Dr. Ellis and her girls target victory as they gear up for the WACON 2025. But the Jamaicans want to dance to reggae music with joy when the ref blows the final whistle. This is the International Friendly. Catch the queens of the beautiful game. African champions, South Africa versus Jamaica. This Friday, 29 November at 1:30 a.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and SABC 1. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
For 30 years, we've stood together, advancing collective action to end violence against women and children. But the fight is far from over. Your voice matters. Every action counts. From educating our communities to supporting survivors, it's time to unite and create a future free from fear. Join SAFM for 16 days of activism. Together we can make a difference. Together we can end the violence. Because 30 years of progress means we cannot stop now. Let's advance the fight. Stand up, speak out, take action. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
43-year-old Jan loves OUTsurance Essential because it's low-cost insurance made for older cars. For his 2006 Corsa 1.6 Sport, he only pays 350 rands a month. With OUTsurance Essential, accident claims are paid in cash, so you can choose the panel beater you want to use. Top this up with motor warranty, which covers you for mechanical or electrical breakdowns. Get saving with OUTsurance Essential for unlicensed cars older than 5 years and valued at less than 130,000 rands. SMS car to 43187. That's car to 43187 today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
SAFM has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Under the code, we are committed to giving news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that is not harmful, does not amount to hate speech, or contain violence or explicit sex. If you think we are not living up to that code, then you can inform the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Direct any complaints in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. PO Box 142365. Craig Hall 2024. Fax to 011-326-3198 or an email to bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more information, please visit www.bccsa.co.za. The Talking Point on SAFM. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
It's Black Friday. You're ready to score that brand new shiny smart TV you've had your eyes on. The deals are insane. 4K resolution, endless apps, the works. You rush to the store, grab your dream TV, and then wham! Wait, what's this? A TV license? Oh no, you didn't pay for it. Now you're stuck with possible penalties and no TV. Avoid the heartache and pay your TV license before you rush off to your new love this Black Friday. It's quick, easy, and way cheaper than penalties. Pay your TV license today at tvlic.co.za. Act now and enjoy your new TV without any worries.
Specsavers now looks after your hearing as well as your vision with Specsavers Audiology. With 60 stores and counting, we are South Africa's largest audiology group. For a limited time only, buy one rechargeable hearing aid and get 50% off the second. You heard right. Buy one rechargeable hearing aid and get 50% off the second. Find your nearest store at specsavers.co.za. Specsavers Audiology. Test your hearing and join the conversation. T's and C's apply.
Ever tried to paint a wall with only your brush? Or hung a picture on just a nail and a prayer? Hey. The contestants on My Design Rules will be the first to tell you good design starts with the right tools. Tune in to My Design Rules every Sunday at 7 p.m. on SABC3 and stand a chance to win a weekend away in the winning apartment. From beginner projects to expert builds, Puco has the tools and materials you need to get the job done. Ready to kickstart your next DIY project? Begin with Puco.
Puco. If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Do great solutions start with a good conversation? SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. You are listening to KG Mwekezi on SAFM.
Here we are, 13 minutes past 9. It's Wednesday, the 27th of November. Welcome to the Talking Point. We're leading the conversation that move us. We are SFM, and join the conversation whenever you want on 086 000 2032. That's 086 000 2032, or the SMS line 41391 at 150 to you, though. That's 41391 at 150 to you. We are on X. We are at SFM Radio, and you can hashtag SFM Talking Point whenever you want to talk to us. So coming up on the program today, between now, I'm crossing my fingers that the telephone lines work. Between now and 10, 086 000 2032. Hopefully the phones don't do to us what they did to us yesterday. They find a ways to behave, and we're able to talk to you about what is on your mind. After 10, in our Citizens Corner, we're going to have a conversation around climate change. In fact, there was a guy who I heard on Thulasizwe Simelane's show calling in, disputing issues of climate change. We're going to have a conversation around climate change and what we can expect for the summer, because in recent weeks we've seen a rise in weather warnings indicating disruptive conditions in various parts of the country, from severe thunderstorms, fire, to snowfall. We've seen the impact, some say, of climate change firsthand. Are we ready to deal with the emergencies of it, should they come? How do these changing weather patterns even affect livelihoods? We're going to talk to Joel Guy, who's an SABC meteorologist, and Dr. Gary Kukemore, who's an environmentalist and the chairperson of the Environmental Governance Committee. I'm so proud of myself that I could say the word meteorologist without even biting my tongue. I'm literally congratulating myself because it's a word I battle with all the time. So, yeah, and Lishono Lotobela, a forecaster at the South African Weather Service. And after 10 at 11, we're going to have what I think is going to be an interesting conversation: financial abuse and GBV. Financial abuse is a lesser known but deeply destructive form of abuse that traps victims. And most won't like me saying that, but the victims are mostly women. And they're trapped in cycles of control and dependency, often making it nearly impossible to escape abusive relationships. Because when we talk of GBV, we largely limit it to physical and emotional. There's a leg to it called financial. Right? While physical and emotional abuse are rightly condemned by society, financial abuse largely remains hidden in the shadows. Yet it's just as crippling. Financial abuse forms part of an overwhelming 99% of domestic abuse cases. Despite this, it's a crisis that is seldom recognized or even discussed. It involves the use of money as a tool of control, where one partner restricts the other's access to financial resources. This can involve anything from controlling all the family finances to preventing a partner from working, sabotaging their employment, or even taking out loans or credit in their name without their knowledge. As the world observes the annual 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, we're going to have a conversation around and educate ourselves around financial abuse with Fatima Sheikh, Lebu Mashawana, and Kensani Nobanda. Big day it was at the Constitutional Court yesterday. And you know, if you were in the city of Johannesburg or were trying to navigate entry or exit outside of the city of Johannesburg, and you saw the sea of red that was traversing, because, you know, the EFF people were going to the Concord, of course, you'll be very surprised, because a lot of people talk about, you know, how they think that it's losing ground. That didn't look like an organization that's losing ground to me. You know, at least if you can gauge by the level of marchers. But also impressive, we're listening to the arguments of the advocates at the High Court. I mean, the caliber of arguments was just at another level. It was fascinating to listen. You know, it's really, really fascinating to listen. So we'll see. You know, we see and we wait. We see what happens now. You know, we're waiting. Pala Pala remains a thorn, you know, a major thorn. So we see what happens. What did you make of it? You know, what did you make of the arguments? Were you watching? Were you watching with keen interest? I was watching with particular keen interest. You know, it's just fascinating to watch the legal arguments. Some very smart lawyers in South Africa. So let's go to the calls. 086 000 2032. 086 000 2032. Bishop Kwanene in Gqeberha. Hi, Bishop.
Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Do you know that I like you? Did you know that? I like you. Want to deal with
you're the first person who says he likes me. You have no idea how much abuse I take.
No, I like you. You know, when I was at I said to another white lady, I miss you. Then only Friday doesn't mean that. When you talk about the Newlands, Mike Newlands, yeah, I was very happy. Kathy, look, I want to talk about the start of the Third World War. You know, the war in Gaza and the war in Ukraine. You see?
I'm listening. Sorry, excuse me. Hello?
People don't condemn that because have you ever read a book called Animal Farm?
Of course, Animal Farm.
So I've done political science at Rhodes University. Bolsheviks were murderers. Those Ukraine, what is done to enter Ukraine and kill innocent people. How can the world not condemn that? Why? You know that in the history, Bethlehem, Jerusalem, Galilee, Nazareth, all those were towns of the Jews. You see?
Yeah.
My question is, promoters, why they do not bring back the hostages? That's my question. Why do the world support Putin, who assassinated his opposition? Why did not condemn Putin? You see, there is no logical reason why they support him. Because to enter to a sovereign country and kill people because you think that maybe they will enter NATO. Because of that, I must enter that country and kill innocent people.
Yeah.
My question to you, why do they not condemn? You see, our country is supporting Putin, but is